Over at Berkeley's old campus, in an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue joint on the commercial street, just outside the East Gate, the Mako entertainment crew was gathered to celebrate the good news about Quinn, Lou, and Marco Shaw. The dinner was supposed to start at 7. Everyone had assumed Claire, who'd had to go home for some family business, probably wouldn't make it back in time for the party. Unexpectedly, just as she'd promised her boyfriend, she returned around 7:30. Inside the restaurant, the atmosphere at their table near the window was loud and lively. Suddenly, the wind chime on the front door tinkled. A gust of cold winter air swept in as the glass door opened, and in walked Claire, draped in a long, black trench coat. As students at other tables stared, captivated, Claire strode through the aisle, a smile playing on her lips as she approached their corner table. "Sorry, I'm late." Her friends, who had been laughing and joking, were overjoyed to see the return of their dear comrade, Bertha Sue, and erupted in excited shouts. "Claire, hey, perfect timing. Sit." She slid naturally into the chair next to Leo, handing her coat to her boyfriend as she asked with a smile, "Did I miss anything?" Leo took her coat and draped it over an empty chair beside him, grinning back at her. "Nope, we just got started eating and drinking. Right before you walked in, they were trying to pressure Quinn and Marco into giving us a public demonstration of their affection." Before he could finish, Marco, sitting across from them, was already complaining. "Bertha, look at this bunch. Is a single one of them decent? Is that kind of thing something you can just perform in public?" Claire frowned. "You're right, that's not decent at all." Before Marco could erupt in triumphant gratitude, Claire turned a reproachful gaze on the rest of the table. "How could you guys start something like that without waiting for me? I'm lucky I got back in time, otherwise I would have missed it." "Marco, question mark. Now, it was everyone else's turn to beam." "Haha, Claire's right. Stop struggling, Marco. Just give Quinn a kiss already. Kiss, kiss, kiss." The group started chanting. Molly was the most enthusiastic of all. "What's wrong with the public display? Here, honey, let's show these rookies how it's done." With that, she beckoned to Leon, leaned in, and planted a loud smooch on her boyfriend's lips. Ever since the drama with her parents, the romance novelist had become noticeably more assertive. The gesture earned a round of whistles and renewed heckling from the group. Marco, usually the most shameless of them all, was now the butt of the joke, his face turning a deep shade of red. In that moment, it was Quinn who stepped up with her alpha female swagger. "You guys just love stirring up trouble, don't you? Fine, a kiss is a kiss." As she spoke, she boldly threw an arm around Marco's shoulders, pulled him close, and kissed him soundly. Then, releasing her somewhat dazed new boyfriend, she turned to her friends at the table and raised an eyebrow. "There, happy now?" Everyone's eyes went wide. As the reality of it sank in, they burst into thunderous applause. "Quinn, you're a legend." It was a celebratory dinner, and everyone was in high spirits, eating and drinking their fill. They ordered several more rounds of beer, and by the end, everyone was feeling a pleasant 6 or 7/10 buzz, content, and a little sentimental. Who would have thought? Their 2 dorms now contained 3 couples. The Mako couple, the novelist and the date cake guy, and the former king and queen of the sea, not to mention Dylan and Jade. Wait, those 2? The group's eyes subconsciously drifted to the only 2 remaining single people in their circle. Jade was leaning close to Dylan, her eyes still bright and full of energy as she made her proposal. "Everyone's paired up, and I should try it out for a few days. Otherwise, the team won't look symmetrical." Dylan, who was already 8/10 drunk and barely coherent, felt a jolt of primal fear at her words. He clutched his beer bottle and shook his head frantically. Even drunk, his will to survive was still strong. The others watched, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Yeah, better not with those 2. They might not work as a couple, but they were a perfectly good Tom and Jerry, or maybe a doctor and her favorite lab rat. That was enough. The dinner party didn't end until late into the night. After paying the bill, the group emerged from the restaurant and said their goodbyes. Some headed back to their dorms, others decided to take a walk to sober up. It was the weekend, so Leo and Claire were heading back to the LNS house. They didn't rush to hail a cab. Instead, the couple strolled slowly along the tree-lined street outside the campus's East Gate. Tonight's dinner had been a blast, celebrating Quinn and Marco's new relationship, and everyone had happily drunk quite a bit. Claire had her fair share, too. Only Leo sensed that something was slightly off. As they walked side by side on the sidewalk, he turned to his girlfriend. "How'd things go at home?" Claire nonchalantly kicked a small pebble from her path, her tone still light. "It was nothing. It's already been resolved." Leo just said, and considerately didn't press further. But Claire's mind couldn't help but flash back to a few hours earlier, when she had arrived at the Sterling family estate in the southern suburbs. At that time, she had walked upstairs and into the reception room. Her conversation with her so-called maternal relatives had lasted no more than a minute. What followed, however, was a 10-minute conversation with her father, the head of the Sterling family. Have you made up your mind? The sigh from the head of Sterling Holdings seemed to still echo in her ears. After all, they're your mother's family. Not since the day they turned their backs on her when she was critically ill. You won't regret it, not even if I had another lifetime to do it over. Your grandmother isn't an easy person to deal with. You need to be prepared. I know. Will this cause trouble for you and Sterling Holdings? Don't worry. Your father has spent years building his network and foundation here in East Bay and the Southern Province. It's not so fragile that I can't protect my own daughter. As he said this, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the reception room, the chairman of Sterling Holdings' voice took on a rare, resounding confidence. You just focus on your relationship with that punk kid, Leo Wallace. If the sky falls, your old man will hold it up for you. Her thoughts returned to the present. Remembering Charles Sterling's words, a faint warmth spread through Claire's eyes. She believed her father's promise, but she also knew the immense power her mother's family, far away in D.C., still wielded. Charles Sterling was getting older. Some things, some troubles that she, as his daughter, had caused. She should be the one to bear them. In the cold January night wind, Claire took a soft breath, as if she had made a decision. She turned to her boyfriend. Leo, yeah, I made up my mind. Starting next week, I'm officially joining Sterling Holdings. The second Monday after the New Year's holiday, Happy Nest officially announced the relocation of its headquarters from the building on Wanning Road. When the news first broke at the end of last year, the entire company had erupted in celebration. But now that the moment to actually leave had arrived, a sense of reluctance filled the air. This was especially true for the earliest employees who had been with the company since its founding last March. As they packed up their personal belongings, every object in the old headquarters seemed to hold a precious memory. This desk, this chair, this window, this potted plant, this cockroach. Holy shit, there's a cockroach. The female employees screamed in terror, while the male employees rushed in, stomping furiously until the insect was obliterated. Suddenly, the charming old building didn't seem so charming anymore. Let's move. Right now, this instant, let's get out of here. And yet, even with that little interruption slightly diluting the bittersweet atmosphere of farewell, once everything had been moved out and cleared away, the sight of the empty, sprawling office floor left the Happy Nest employees standing in silent contemplation, their eyes filled with nostalgia. From last March to this January, for over 10 months, this small building had witnessed Happy Nest's journey from nothing to something, from a tiny startup of a dozen people to a company with hundreds of employees across its headquarters and various branches. From obscurity to a household name in the nation's internet industry. From a fearless upstart to a titan in East Bay, one that could stand its ground against the country's biggest internet giants. The veteran employees would never forget the countless meetings in the glass-walled conference room to their left, where they had brainstormed strategies and pulled all-nighters under the leadership of their CEO and CSO. So many sleepless nights. Oh wait, it seemed like only they and their CEO, Mr. Chung, had been pulling all-nighters. That damn little boss Lin was always slacking off and avoiding work. The absolute nerve of that guy. One second they were heartbroken. The next, as their gazes swept across the room and landed on the workstation by the window on the right, they felt a pang of nostalgia. They clearly remembered it. It was the night before Happy Nest went live. Everyone, including David Chung, was on edge, anxious and exhausted to their limits. It was their chief strategy officer who had stepped up. He sat at that workstation by the window. That night, the second floor of the Wanning Road building was brightly lit. As every member of the company worked frantically, they would occasionally glance toward the handsome figure at that desk. Their CSO just sat there, head bowed as he reviewed documents, calmly answering questions from every employee who approached him. It wasn't just that one night. From then on, whenever the company faced a serious challenge, that figure would always be sitting there. Just like his calm reassurance, leave it to me. Even if it was just the sight of his back, even if it was just those 3 simple words, it always managed to calm everyone at Happy Nest, providing a sense of stability during the company's most critical moments. These were precious, cherished memories that could not be erased, even after moving to a new office. The Happy Nest team looked at each other, seeing the shared nostalgia and warmth in their eyes. David Chung smiled. That kid, he really should have come today. He thought for a moment, then took out his phone and dialed. When the call connected, he spoke with a smile to his partner on the other end. Hey, the company's moving today. Everyone misses you. A confused voice came from the other end. Miss me? Why? David chuckled and explained. There was a moment of silence on the line. Just as everyone thought their CSO was moved by their sentiment, they heard the pretty boy on the other end gasp. Are you guys for real? You were all secretly staring at my back while I was trying to work. Don't you people have partners? Why are you coveting a taken man? If you have that much free time, go find someone to date. Anyway, I gotta go. I'm getting food for my wife. Bye. The call disconnected. All that was left was a dial tone, and a group of petrified Happiness Corps executives huddled around the phone. The Happiness team. Suddenly, they didn't really miss their CSO all that much anymore. To hell with the chief strategy officer. After 2 days of packing and organizing, on Wednesday, Happiness officially moved into the East Bay Global Financial Center in Lujiazui. At 9 o'clock that morning, in the grand lobby of the 61st floor, a floor chosen by a company-wide vote, a ribbon-cutting ceremony was held. Under the watchful lenses of countless media cameras, David Chung, the CEO of Happiness, did the honors. In attendance were leaders from various relevant East Bay municipal departments, as well as William Tion, the vice president of Nexus Group's Weibo project, and Mr. Hayes, the current chief of staff for the city's administration. Although Governor Zhao Bojun couldn't be there in person, the presence of his right-hand man clearly represented the attitude of East Bay's #1 official. During the ceremony, Mr. Hayes and David Chung chatted amiably. While offering his congratulations, he also presented a gift that the governor had specifically instructed him to bring: 4 fruit baskets. The surrounding leaders from East Bay's political and business circles couldn't help but murmur amongst themselves, speculating privately. Why fruit baskets? And 4 of them, no less. Shouldn't one send flower baskets to a ribbon-cutting ceremony? Perhaps Governor Zhao had some hidden meaning. Only the smile on a certain Happiness CEO's face was stiff, almost cracking, because just a moment ago when Mr. Hayes had presented the baskets, he had passed along a message with a peculiar expression. The big boss said he's sending 4 fruit baskets this time. So next time a certain kid visits his house, he shouldn't even think about swiping anymore. David Chung, the esteemed CEO of Happiness. Another day of feeling utterly humiliated by his business partner. While the news of Happiness' move into the East Bay Global Financial Center spread like wildfire across the city, another piece of news from Sterling Holdings was kept under wraps. Only the highest echelons of the corporation were aware. Starting this week, the next and only heir to Sterling Holdings would officially join the group. She was beginning to take the reins. And, according to rumors, the young miss of the Sterling family had chosen her starting point: the Sterling Holdings Strategy Department. It was one of the most important departments in the entire group, responsible for setting strategic goals and participating in major project decisions. The department itself was divided into 7 subdivisions and operated with over 300 elite employees. Coincidentally, due to a recent expansion of personnel at Sterling Holdings, the headquarters had become overcrowded. The corporation made the decision to move the entire strategy department to a new office space. And the new location for the Sterling Holdings Strategy Department was the newly completed East Bay Global Financial Center on the 57th floor, just 4 floors below Happiness 61 SD. Fate. It truly worked in mysterious ways. Leo, naturally, knew nothing about the internal department shuffles and office relocations at Sterling Holdings. To be blunt, as Happiness CSO, his main job was to coast and look busy when the company wasn't facing a major crisis. To maintain his anonymity, he hadn't even shown his face at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the move into the Global Financial Center. It was only after the event that he called Mr. Hayes to check in. He listened as the chief of staff cheerfully reported that everything had gone smoothly and that he had even delivered a few fruit baskets on behalf of the governor. Fruit baskets? Shouldn't you send flower baskets to a ribbon-cutting ceremony? A certain clueless pretty boy was a little puzzled. After hanging up, he immediately called David Chung to get the details. What he got was an earful of indignant, grief-stricken accusations. You had the goddamn nerve to ask. The shame of it all. My reputation with Governor Zhao is completely ruined. 4 fruit baskets. I had no idea what to do with them, do you understand? Leo gasped. 4 fruit baskets. David Chung, yes. 4. Now you know how embarrassing it is. Leo, so, are you going to eat them? If not, save them for me. I'll come by tomorrow to pick them up. Can't let them go to waste. 3 seconds of silence on the other end. Then, David Chang's voice came through, strained through gritted teeth. Sure, you come by tomorrow. I'll have some other treasures ready for you. Leo thought for a moment. On second thought, maybe I'll wait. The fruit baskets were tempting, but it didn't seem worth it if his life was on the line. After the banter, the two co-founders of Happiness got down to business. Moving the office from the old building to the Global Financial Center was an emotional transition. But from a practical and long-term perspective, it was all upside. The three-story building on Wanning Road was already bursting at the seams with the current number of employees. Even with some working from home or at branch offices, the 70 or 80 people at headquarters were packed and tight. There were never enough conference rooms, and department heads were constantly at each other's throats, fighting for booking times. Now, at the Global Financial Center, the 61st floor offered a sprawling 38,000 square feet of space, with over 27,000 square feet of office area. There were 6 conference rooms of various sizes. It could easily accommodate over 300 employees. With this move, Happiness had truly arrived in the East Bay business world. Perched 850 feet above the ground in the Global Financial Center, overlooking the most prosperous and bustling commercial district in all of East Bay, the company now embodied the spirit of pioneers of technology, the standard for East Bay. According to the favorable terms they had negotiated with the city government, Happiness could have rented 2 entire floors at once. But with only 70 or 80 people at headquarters now, and maybe 120 or 130 if everyone working remotely came back, they couldn't even fill 1 floor. So, for now, there was no need to bite off more than they could chew. Of course, expanding their staff was still necessary. Whether it was for Happiness growing business operations or for future collaborations with the city government on projects like an anti-misinformation mechanism and a public welfare platform, they needed more talent. Leo brought this up again with David Chung on the phone. David nodded on the other end. Don't worry, HR is already on it. Now that we've moved to the Global Financial Center, our office is high-end and impressive. It gives us more leverage when recruiting. Then, David remembered something else and mentioned it to Leo. I did some asking around after we moved in. More than half of the office floors here have already been leased. Some companies took a whole floor, others are sharing. Roughly, there are over 40 companies that have officially moved in. I've already collected business cards from more than a dozen of them. They're all top players in their respective industries in East Bay and the Southern Province. We should connect with them later. Maybe we can spark some collaboration opportunities. Leo nodded. Sounds good. Happiness had grown significantly, but you can't go it alone in the business world forever. Right now, Nexus was their only ally, which wasn't quite enough. That definitely needed to cultivate more friendly partnerships. Besides Happiness, Leo's own Mako Entertainment was also busy. The Heavenly Tactics project was on hold, waiting for regulatory approval, but they were already preparing to sue Scrollverse. He had given Mr. Hayes a heads up about this. After understanding the situation, the chief of staff was relaxed, even joking with Leo. Reason and law are both on your side. You in a normal lawsuit. You're coming to me with something this small? Are you worried I don't have enough to do? Leo laughed. Well, I was worried they wouldn't play fair. A timid, law-abiding citizen like me can't handle people like that. Mr. Hayes was exasperated. You timid? What kind of timid, law-abiding citizen dares to visit Governor Zhao's house and walk away with 2 of his fruit baskets? He had only learned about that incident from the governor himself later on. The moment he heard it, he nearly turned to stone. Good grief. He had never in his life met someone with that much nerve. Joking aside, before hanging up, Mr. Hayes offered a light promise. Don't worry, I'll put in a word for you. If they dare to not play fair, I'll go have a word with them about what fair means. That was exactly what Leo was waiting for. After a final round of flattery, he hung up, completely satisfied. Now let those fools at the web novel company see the power of justice. While the Heavenly Tactics project was temporarily paused, the blockhead figurine business was booming. After the Christmas promotion, it had become an instant hit. Now, both the online store and the physical workshop were selling out of all styles of the figurines. Chloe Chu from Mia's maternity was calling him 3 times a day, begging for more stock. Business at the Blockhead Workshop was also red hot. The Northwood high underclassmen working there were exhausted. But the most exhausted of all was Robert Wallace. Leo's father was truly experiencing a mix of pain and pleasure these days. His once struggling mold factory had been revived by producing the Blockhead figurines. They were working overtime every day and still couldn't keep up. On one hand, his son was hounding him for more products. On the other, his own wife was now on his case. It turned out that after visiting the Blockhead Workshop, Susan Wallace had been inspired. She had her son help design a mascot blockhead for the Sweet Return Bakery. They sold it as a bundle with their baked goods and offered it as a reward for customers who loaded up their loyalty cards. This sparked a new craze among the middle and high school students and female customers of Northwood County. December sales hit a new record, doubling the previous months. Leo himself hadn't expected the blockhead figurines to have such a great reception and impact on sales at his mom's bakery. But on second thought, it wasn't surprising. The blockhead designs were charming and cute, and the bakery's primary customers in Northwood were female students. It was only natural they be popular. Moreover, Susan Wallace had been particularly clever this time. She had Kevin Zhao, the head of the art department, design a special good luck for college figurine. She combined this with the widely publicized memory bread and acceptance bread from before. It was a perfect 1-2 punch. Once again, the parents of Northwood students were easily won over. It just went to show that Susan Wallace had a real knack for business. Her son's success was clearly inherited. Besides the good luck figurine, another blockhead was selling like crazy at the bakery. It was a couple's figurine. Susan Wallace had added her own personal touch to this design. The cute boy and girl couple figurines served as the official mascots for the Sweet Return Bakery. One was named Leo, and the other was named Claire. The reference was crystal clear. The pretty shop assistants at the bakery recognized the junior boss and his wife at a glance. This couple figurine was also a massive hit with the people of Northwood County. Many young student couples found them irresistible and had to buy one to take home. There was another special group, however, that saw the hidden meaning immediately. Hey, this figurine set looks just like Leo and Claire, our seniors. That's right. It was the student body of Northwood High. Even a year and a half after Leo and Claire had graduated, the legend of their power couple status still circulated through their alma mater. The current seniors had even seen them in person. The newer underclassmen had seen their photos on the honor roll board as distinguished alumni. The impression was profound. Now, seeing this couple's figurine at the Sweet Return Bakery, and then finding out that the bakery's owner was senior Leo Wallace's mother, they were ecstatic. It was true. The reasonable couple had official merchandise. As fans, how could they not show their support? The news spread like wildfire from one student to the next, until it had reached every corner of Northwood High. A few days later, almost everyone at the school had a reasonable couple figurine displayed on their desks at home or in the classroom, like a shrine. Seniors, please bless me so I can get into Berkeley too. Seniors, please bless me with a cool and aloof girl as my desk mate. Seniors, please bless me with a sweet romance of my own. Oh wait, no, just a conveniently reasonable deskmate friendship will do. When the school administration first heard about it, they thought something was wrong. Were the students getting into superstitions? But when they inquired further and learned that the objects of worship were their own two distinguished alumni, they let it be. In fact, the school itself got an idea. The dean of students, Dean Evans, personally called Leo to ask if he could design 2 official school mascot blockhead figurines for Northwood High. After hearing the whole story, Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Being a distinguished alumnus was one thing. But being worshipped as a deity? What was that all about? But once a trend takes off, it's hard to control. Fortunately, it was all positive, so no harm done. And the Sweet Return Bakery's business boomed as a result. This prompted Susan Wallace to make a final decision. The plan for a branch in East Bay was finalized. In one fell swoop, she decided to open 2 branches, with renovations and hiring to be done before the new year, and an official opening afterward. One was to be located in the city center, leveraging their partnership with the Omnimart supermarket chain. The other was to be right next to her son's old campus at Berkeley. She didn't even have to worry about finding a location for that one. Leo just had to make a call to Mr. Chien, and it was settled. The 2 new bakery branches would be managed by Jenna and Laura, the 2 pretty and capable shop assistants who had visited East Bay before. But while both were talented, this was their first time taking on such a major responsibility in a big city like East Bay. There was still a lot of coordination and planning to do. They couldn't handle it all on their own. Leo thought for a moment. He remembered Kevin Zhao constantly mentioning Serafina Vance, who was said to have outstanding organizational and coordination skills from her time at the Portland branch, and even an impressive track record in marketing. It was decided. Mako Entertainment's headquarters was quiet lately anyway. When Serafina arrived in East Bay, she could go straight to the bakery to help out. As a ruthless capitalist, one had to have their own unique techniques for slacking off. With all his work delegated, Leo was free to focus entirely on studying for his upcoming final exams. However, one thing interrupted his study plans. This weekend, there was another Sterling family gathering. Claire, who was about to officially start her job at Sterling Holdings, had to go back again. Leo hadn't planned on going with her. But unexpectedly, this time it was his dear father-in-law, Charles Sterling, who specifically requested his presence. When the father-in-law speaks, there's no room for excuses. So, over the weekend, Leo obediently accompanied his wife to the Sterling family estate in the southern suburbs. When they arrived, It was the same group of familiar young Sterling science. Except for Graham Sterling, who was nowhere to be seen. The other pampered, arrogant second-generation Sterlings forced a smile and a greeting for their cousin-in-law, before quickly finding an excuse to disappear. If you can't beat him, avoid him, right? The magnanimous Leo Hammer Wallace didn't hold it against them. He just casually jotted down a few more notes in his little black book. Before dinner, Charles Sterling called Leo upstairs to his study alone. Claire followed them in, her hands clasped behind her back. The chairman of Sterling Holdings looked at his daughter with a stern expression. Claire, you can go out first. I have something to discuss with Leo alone. Claire shook her head decisively. No. Charles Sterling. The patriarch's authority nearly crumbled on the spot. In the end, it was Leo who tactfully saved the situation for his father-in-law. Claire, why don't you go on ahead? I'll have a chat with our big brother. No, our dad. I mean with your uncle. He even struggled with the right title. But the young miss of the Sterling family finally granted her boyfriend some face and reluctantly left. Before closing the door, she didn't forget to give Leo a concerned reminder. If he gives you any trouble, just call me. I'll handle him. Charles Sterling. Pretend I didn't hear that. Pretend I didn't hear that. Once the study door was closed and the sound of the girl's footsteps faded away, Charles Sterling turned to look at Leo and grumbled. Your words carry more weight than mine. Leo gave a dry laugh. Not at all, not at all. He wouldn't dare compete with his father-in-law on that front. Charles Sterling grunted again, his expression finally turning serious. He glanced at Leo. Have a seat. I asked you here today for something important. Leo sat down on the sofa, his posture upright. Go ahead, sir. Seeing Leo's attentive posture, Charles Sterling nodded slightly and then spoke. I'm planning to have you join Sterling Holdings as well. He had only been in the study at the Sterling estate with his dear father-in-law for about 5 minutes. After the conversation ended, he opened the door and stepped out, closing it gently behind him. Standing in the hallway at the top of the stairs, Leo was lost in thought. Joining Sterling Holdings? This was an unexpected development from his visit to the family gathering. Just now in the study, his father-in-law must have already planned everything out. The words he spoke were clearly rehearsed. I know that after graduating high school, you helped your family open some kind of bakery. Business is good. And in college, you even started your own entertainment company, making games, opening a shop, and selling some kind of toy figurines. Compared to most people your age, that's certainly impressive. However, at this point, the chairman of Sterling Holdings paused, his tone shifting and becoming more serious. It's not enough to be Claire's boyfriend. All that matters is her heart. But to be the other half of the future heir to Sterling Holdings. To be the future son-in-law of the Sterling family. What you need to cultivate and develop goes far beyond this small-time tinkering. As he spoke those words, Charles Sterling looked at the young man before him, and his mind couldn't help but drift to the recent East Bay Entrepreneur Symposium. At that conference, he had met David Chung, the CEO of Happy Nest. They had hit it off, finding a mutual rapport, and he had taken the opportunity to discreetly confirm some information about the company's co-founder and CSO. He'd heard the man was also only in his early 20s. To have co-founded Happy Nest with a titan of the domestic internet industry like David Chung and, in just one short year, achieved such brilliant success. To have reached such heights. To have even earned a personal visit from the city's top official, Governor Zhao Bojun, and received that 8-word commendation that was the envy of the entire business community. Thinking about the accomplishments of that mysterious, low-profile CISO of Happy Nest, Charles Sterling couldn't help but feel a sense of wistful sentiment, like the new generation was already surpassing the old. A person like that was a true prodigy, a dragon among men. The kid in front of him was certainly outstanding, but compared to the chief strategy officer at Happy Nest, he was still a long way off. But then, looking at Leo again, Charles Sterling's heart softened. He couldn't bring himself to use the Happy Nest CSO as a point of comparison, afraid it would crush the boy's spirit and drive. He thought for a moment and changed his approach. Although Claire is the sole heir to Sterling Holdings and the Sterling family, she's still young and lacks experience. She'll be starting at a lower-level position to slowly build her skills. Since you're her boyfriend, if you want to be worthy of the title of my son-in-law, you should join her. Grow together. In the future, you'll be able to support her. It was precisely these last few sentences from Charles Sterling that truly convinced Leo. At first, when he heard his father-in-law's arrangement for him to join Sterling Holdings, Leo had intended to politely decline. He could sense the protective intention behind the offer. Indeed, for most people, becoming the Sterling family's son-in-law and getting a chance to build a career within Sterling Holdings would be a dream come true. But he didn't need it. Others might think he needed a corporate resume to solidify his status as a Sterling in-law. But in reality, his dual titles as CSO of Happy Nest and chairman of Mako Entertainment already gave him a level of influence that, in some respects, put him on equal footing with his own father-in-law. However, it was Charles Sterling's final words that struck a chord with him. The opportunity to join Sterling Holdings was take it or leave it for him. But for his girlfriend, it was a necessity. Just as his father-in-law had said, Claire was still too young. Leo understood this clearly. As brilliant and intelligent as his wife was, she wasn't a reincarnator with a cheat code like him. In his previous life, she had been the renowned female president of Sterling Holdings, but that was only after years of experience following graduation. In this life, Claire was only a sophomore in college, not yet 20. To join Sterling Holdings and start taking over the family business so early would inevitably be a struggle. At a time like this, as her boyfriend, he should indeed be by her side, guiding and protecting her. By joining Sterling Holdings with her, he could help her, both openly and discreetly. His mind made up, Leo walked down the stairs. He was met by Claire, who was waiting for him on the second floor. She looked up at her boyfriend and raised an eyebrow. "What did you and Charles Sterling talk about? Did he give you a hard time?" As she spoke, she casually rolled up her sleeves, as if she was ready to march upstairs and deal with the old man if her boyfriend reported any wrongdoing. Leo smiled and took her hand. "No, he just said that since you're joining Sterling Holdings soon, he wanted me to join too, to get some experience. That way, I could be more worthy of the Sterling son-in-law title." Claire was slightly surprised. "He wants you to join too?" The young miss of the Sterling family's brow relaxed. That was unexpected. For once, the old man was actually thinking about his son-in-law. The arrangement was quite thoughtful. He was starting to act like a proper father. But then, another thought occurred to her, and she frowned slightly, looking at her boyfriend. "What about your things? You still have Mako Entertainment and the Blockhead Workshop to manage. If you don't want to, just tell me. I'll go talk to Charles Sterling and turn it down for you." From her own perspective, Claire naturally wanted her boyfriend to join Sterling Holdings with her. If nothing else, they would have more time to spend together at work instead of being separated so often. But she also understood his difficulties. On one hand, he had Mako Entertainment to run. On the other hand, joining a massive corporation like Sterling Holdings involved a level of difficulty and intensity that a small company couldn't compare to. The pressure would be immense. Her boyfriend was smart and talented, but he wasn't a reincarnator who had already been the president of Sterling Holdings once before, like she was. Being thrown into the deep end like this felt a bit forced. Leo smiled. "It's fine. The Blockhead Workshop has our dorm mates and the underclassmen from Northwood to help out. And Mako Entertainment has Kevin and Gibberish Girl. That's enough. I want to join Sterling Holdings. It's not forced. This way, I can spend more time with you. And besides," he paused, then added with righteous indignation, "if I didn't go to Sterling Holdings with you, I'd miss out on your professional office attire, wouldn't I? I can't afford that kind of loss." Claire laughed, pleased by his decision. She leaned in and gave him a rewarding kiss on the cheek. "You want to see the office attire? Huh? Tonight, when we get home, I'll put it on for you first." Leo's blood boiled. "You already bought it?" Claire gave a seductive smile. "More than one set." The young couple whispered intimately as they walked down the stairs toward the dining room. They were completely unaware that around the corner of the hallway, a group of young Sterling cousins, who had accidentally overheard their conversation, were frozen like statues, their pupils dilated in shock. The matter of joining Sterling Holdings was unexpected, but since Leo had made his decision, he didn't waste any more time mulling it over. He couldn't think of any downsides, anyway. In fact, it seemed like all upsides. Not only would he get to spend more time with his girlfriend, guiding her on her career path, but he'd also get to feast his eyes on Bertha Sue's limited edition professional office attire every day. What was not to love? Claire was, of course, happy too. That night, she fulfilled her promise, modeling several new work outfits for her boyfriend at the L&S house. Then, at his enthusiastic and desperate request, she sighed in exasperated amusement and agreed to try on a few pairs of matching stockings. The trying-on process turned out to be quite exhausting, so it was only reasonable that the couple ended up testing out the friendship bed in the master bedroom together. Waking up the next morning, a finally clear-headed Claire looked at the floor beside the bed and, half annoyed and half amused, punched her boyfriend lightly. "You little perv. I just bought those. You owe me." The previous night's productive work attire trial session had resulted in 2 pairs of stockings being lost in the line of duty, killed in action before they even saw the battlefield. Over the weekend, the final exams for the semester at Berkeley finally arrived. The advertising majors had 2 exams in the morning, advanced English and classic literature, and then spent the afternoon in the computer lab, furiously clicking away at design software to complete their multimedia production final. The next morning, it was marketing theory analysis. And in the afternoon, the last exam, design theory. When the bell signaling the end of the exam rang, accompanied by a chorus of relieved sighs and anguished groans, the fall semester of their sophomore year officially came to a close. The remaining 2 or 3 specialized courses didn't have exams. They just had to submit their final projects and wait for their grades. Walking out of the exam hall, Marco was bursting with confidence. I'm invincible, my brothers. If I don't get into the top 5 in our class for design this semester, I'll eat. Dylan shot him a disdainful look. Just another excuse to get free food. I'll eat my ass. Go eat Quinn's lips or something. It turned out Dylan's judgment was correct. When the final grades were released, Marco's design GPA ranked 35th in the class. The great Marco Shaw's artistic prowess was still leaps and bounds ahead of the curve. Of course, the exams had just ended. There was still some time before grades were out. For now, the students cast their worries aside, ready to relax and celebrate. In room 520, Dylan, Leon, and Marco had planned to team up in the new Dungeon of the Battle through the Heavens browser game for 3 days and 3 nights. But then Leon got a call from Molly. After hanging up, he apologized sheepishly to his roommates. Apparently, a new bookstore just opened in Southbridge. Molly asked me to go with her, abandoning his brothers for a woman. He was met with a barrage of scorn from Marco and Dylan. Marco thumped his chest, assuring his Gotham brother, "Don't worry, Dylan. Your second brother isn't a scumbag like our eldest, who forgets his friends the moment he sees a girl. We said we'd run the dungeon together, and we'll do it even if the sky falls." The next second his phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, Marco's eyes lit up. He answered instantly, his face transforming into a mask of eager sycophancy. "Hey, honey, I just finished my exam and was about to call you. What? Go to the mall? Of course, I'm free. What other plans could I possibly have? Your plans are my plans. I'm on standby 24/7 at your service." He hung up. Marco put his phone away, turned to his Gotham brother, and, without batting an eye, changed his tune. Of course, on the other hand, the Gotham duo was once again split apart. Dylan, abandoned for a second time, was heartbroken. Traitors. Once you get a girlfriend, you're not even human anymore. Leo didn't spend the afternoon with his girlfriend. Instead, he went to the old faculty housing complex to see the former university president, Dr. Alastair Finch. This time, it wasn't just to play 5 in a row with the old man. It was for business. The profits from the Christmas blockhead figurine promotion had been tallied. Between the new and old campuses, they had sold over 7,000 figurines. After deducting production and labor costs, 80% of the remaining profit amounted to nearly $60,000. Leo took some of the recent profits from Mako Entertainment. He rounded it up to an even 100,000. This would be the first injection of funds into the joint Mako Entertainment Berkeley Charity Fund. Leo already had an idea of how to use the money. During a recent chat over a game of 5 in a row, Dr. Finch had mentioned the transportation difficulties students on the old campus faced, as well as the problem of what to do with their bikes. This time, Leo had a solution. Bike sharing? Sitting across from Leo, Dr. Finch was taken aback, looking confused. Leo corrected him. Campus honesty bike sharing. Students wouldn't have to buy the bikes. The charity fund would purchase a fleet of bicycles to be used as public property of a university. Students could rent them flexibly, take them, and return them as needed. Although the technology of 2009 wasn't advanced enough for QR code payments and locking like in his past life, which could lead to problems like unreturned bikes, they would simply forego strict monitoring and rely on the students' integrity. They would announce that each rental would cost 50 cents, with all proceeds going to the charity project, and set up donation boxes at the bike stations. The concept of rent will be transformed into charitable donation. This would inspire the students' goodwill and encourage self-regulation, making them consciously drop coins into the donation boxes. At the same time, it would promote the idea of honest rentals, fostering a sense of integrity among the Berkeley student body. Students who were smart enough to get into Berkeley weren't likely to cheat for such a small amount. But even if there were such people, Happiness rating system, which was now wildly popular across the country, was no joke. Anyone who dared to test the system would face social death on a campus-wide scale. A carrot in one hand, a stick in the other. A two-pronged approach. It was practically foolproof. After listening to Leo's explanation, Dr. Finch's eyes widened. He looked at Leo as if he were seeing a monster. "You kid, how on earth does your brain work? You can even come up with something like this." Leo looked modest. "Not at all, not at all. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants." While the old man was still reeling, lost in a vision of a beautiful future with honesty bike sharing. Leo deftly palmed 2 of his opponent's game pieces. He placed another of his own pieces on the board and declared righteously, 5 in a row. I win. When a new week arrived, on Monday morning, the young couple had breakfast at the LNS house. Claire, already dressed in a sharp and stylish professional outfit, was getting ready to head to Sterling Holdings to officially start her job. She turned to her boyfriend and raised an eyebrow. Are you coming with me? Leo thought for a moment and shook his head. You go ahead. I have something to take care of this morning. I'll meet you there later. Although he had also decided to join Sterling Holdings, he had to visit the new Happy Nest headquarters first to talk to David Chung about a few things. And he wanted to check out the new office space on the 61st floor of the Global Financial Center. He figured it wouldn't be on the way to his girlfriend's destination, the Sterling Holdings headquarters. The low rumble of an engine echoed from the driveway in front of the LNS house, tinged with a hint of cheerful excitement. The lady of the single slaughterhouse was heading off to work. She was driving the Maybach. Showing up for your first day of work in a multi-million-dollar luxury car was definitely a bit over the top. Anyone who didn't know better would think she owned the company. Oh, wait, she did? Never mind then. Back at the house, Leo wasn't in a rush to leave. He cleared the dining table, washed the dishes in the kitchen, and leisurely did some chores. Coming out of the kitchen, he went to the living room to feed his parrot, Reasonable. Amidst a flurry of flapping wings and obsequious flattery, he turned on the TV and put a Planet Earth Birds DVD in the player. Finally, with the parrot squawking, "Farewell, Your Majesty. Farewell, Your Majesty." Leo, in high spirits, slung his backpack over his shoulder and headed out the door. It was January of 2009. The morning air was crisp and cold. There was no snow today, but a sharp chill still lingered, carried by a light breeze that instantly woke you up. Leo tightened the collar of his jacket. He walked out of the residential complex and waited at the bus stop, boarding the next bus that came along. He wasn't in a hurry today. He took a leisurely bus ride to the subway station, then bought a ticket and boarded a train heading downtown. The subway car sped through the tunnel, the advertising light boxes on the walls blurring past the window. He could see posters for Nexus's Weibo and Apex social alternating, a clear sign of their fierce competition. Leo smiled. The battles of the business world were often fought in the simplest of ways. Online, you threw money at poaching talent and signing celebrity influencers. Offline, you threw money at plastering advertisements everywhere. Everything was for traffic. Every user I gain is one you lose. There was no warmth or harmony, just a fight to the death. Leo wasn't the only one who noticed the dueling Weibo ads on the tunnel walls. A few young professionals sitting next to him were also discussing them curiously. It seemed none of them had a Weibo account yet. Now their interest was piqued, and they were debating whether to sign up with Apex or Nexus. Leo enthusiastically joined the conversation, helping them analyze the pros and cons. Based on their needs, he broke down the features and user experience of each platform. Finally, he was about to deliver his conclusion. So, all things considered, signing up for Nexus's Weibo would probably be a better fit for you. Wait a second. You guys don't have Happy Nest accounts? Well, in that case, my objective, personal recommendation is that you sign up for Happy Nest first. Don't worry, I'm not a salesman. I'm just an ordinary college student. What connection could I possibly have with a major internet company? Weibo? What Weibo? Oh, don't worry about it. Once you have Happy Nest, you won't need Weibo. Yes, the battles of the business world were often fought in the simplest of ways. The esteemed CISO of a major corporation, personally recruiting a few new users for his own website. If the train hadn't reached his transfer station, Leo was ready to try and convert the entire car. He made his way through the station and boarded another train. It was rush hour now, and as the train got closer to the city center, the cars became more and more crowded. As another wave of passengers squeezed in, a young woman standing next to Leo got her right arm pinned against a handrail pole. She let out a small cry of pain, trying to pull her arm free, but was wedged in too tightly. Leo saw what was happening. He leaned toward her, using his body to gently push the surrounding passengers back a bit. He managed to create a small pocket of space for her. The woman quickly pulled her arm free, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead with a sigh of relief. It was only then that Leo got a clear look at her face. She looked to be in her early 20s. She was pretty, with light makeup that gave her a mature, professional air. Dressed in a standard business suit with a pencil skirt, she looked like a young professional who had just recently graduated. By now, the woman had recovered and subconsciously looked up to thank the kind person who had helped her. When she saw Leo's face, her eyes lit up slightly. She whispered, "Thank you. but couldn't help sneaking another couple of glances at him. He's so handsome, she thought. Judging by his clothes and age, he was probably still a college student. But his handsome, confident demeanor was exactly her type. Leo smiled and nodded. Before he could say anything, his phone rang. He struggled to pull it out of his pocket. He glanced at the caller ID. He was a little surprised. He took a small step back to make some room, answered the call, and put the phone to his ear. "Hello, Governor." The person calling was none other than the new #1 official of East Bay, who had taken office just 2 months ago, the magnanimous governor who still held a grudge about the 2 swiped fruit baskets, Governor Zhao Bojan. For such a busy and important figure to call personally, it had to be for official business. Leo didn't dare to be flippant and listened attentively. It turned out the governor was calling with good news. Starting this year, the national government had decided to strongly support the development of the tertiary sector and high-tech companies. The East Bay municipal government was following suit, and there would be many new policies and plans rolled out. Local internet companies like Happy Nest would be eligible for numerous benefits. Normally, companies would be fighting tooth and nail for these opportunities. It would involve a lot of networking and competition between various departments and units. The process was deep and complicated. But when it came to Happy Nest, with this one phone call, the governor had essentially handpicked them for a spot. It was a guaranteed admission. Leo immediately showered his governor with praise, vowing to work hard under his leadership, respond to the call of policy, and go wherever he pointed. And next time he visited, he would only take 1 fruit basket at most. On the other end of the line, Governor Zhao nodded in satisfaction at the first part of the speech, but the more he listened, the more something fell off. He finally cut him off, exasperated. Stop. You kid. Can you be a little less focused on taking advantage of things?" With the official business concluded, the governor was a busy man. He didn't make any more small talk and was about to hang up. But just before he did, he seemed to remember something. "By the way, your company moved to the Global Financial Center. Have you been there yourself yet?" Leo replied casually, "Not yet. Today's my first time. I'm on my way now. I don't even know what it's like there yet." Governor Zhao paused, his tone thoughtful. "So you don't know what other companies are there either?" Leo nodded naturally. "Yeah, why would I have looked into that? But I heard a lot of companies have already moved in. Maybe we'll get a chance to build good relationships with our new neighbors upstairs and downstairs." There was another pause on the line. Then the governor's calm and composed voice came through. It seemed to be tinged with a hint of schadenfreude. "All right, well then, you have fun with that." Maybe it was his imagination, but Leo could have sworn he detected a hint of a troll in his governor's last few words. But then he reconsidered. It didn't make sense. The #1 official of the city, a man with 1,000 things to do every day, the refined and dignified Governor Zhao. How could he have the time or inclination for such petty amusement? He must have been mistaken. Shaking his head, Leo put his phone away. Just as he looked up, he saw the young woman from before looking at him, a strange expression on her face. The subway car was crowded. They were standing close, and even though Leo had stepped back to take the call, the woman had inevitably overheard parts of the conversation. She had no idea who Leo was talking to. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but she had caught some odd snippets. Something about a governor. Something about a Governor Zhao. Was it a professor or a dean at his school? But the more she listened, the more confused she became. The conversation had turned to government policies, benefit quotas, and even future national plans. It all sounded like incredibly important stuff. How could a regular college student be involved in any of it? And the tone of the conversation made it sound as if East Bay's government policies could be decided with a single word between the two of them. The woman raised an eyebrow. The scene felt familiar. Then she remembered that when she was in college, there were guys like this too. They would try to show off in front of girls, making phone calls that sounded like they were negotiating multi-million-dollar deals, name-dropping department heads, directors, even commissioners. Her thoughts spun. The woman had a moment of clarity. The look she gave Leo was now tinged with playful amusement. "What a cute kid. He's too shy to approach me directly. So he's putting on a show with a phone call to seem impressive. These little tricks, they might work on a college campus. But to a grown-up like her, who had left the ivory tower for the real world, it just seemed a little childish. Childish, but still kind of cute. This was probably the advantage of being good-looking. If it had been any other guy putting on such an act, she would have seen right through it and dismissed him with contempt. But with this handsome young man, it was actually kind of funny. She crossed her arms. The woman watched Leo with interest, wondering what other cute little tricks he would pull now that he was off the phone. She, in turn, could decide whether or not to give him a chance to ask for a number. Leo noticed the woman's gaze. He was slightly confused. He glanced back at her. The corners of the woman's mouth curved into a small smile. She waited patiently, expecting the student to be the first one to break. Leo looked at her again, still confused. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then hesitated. The woman's smile widened. She thought the student was about to cave. Finally, as the crowd in the subway car shifted again, pushing them slightly closer, the young man, from her perspective, seemed to finally muster his courage and make up his mind. He spoke. Could you? Before he could finish, the woman smiled brightly and nodded. Sure. She was ready to take out her phone and add the student's number. But just as she reached into her bag, she heard him finish his sentence. Could you let me through? This is my stop. I need to get off. The woman? Question mark. Before she could process it, she just stared dumbly as Leo walked right past her and headed for the subway doors. This girl, he thought. I just helped you out, and now you're blocking the way when I need to get off. Talk about ungrateful. The next moment, a soft, pleasant voice announced the station over the intercom. The subway doors opened, ding. The elevator doors slid open, arriving at the 57th floor of the Global Financial Center. Claire stepped out. Today, she was dressed in a professional office suit. The high heels made her already tall, slender figure even more striking. Her hair was tied back in a high ponytail, giving her a cool, capable, and mature aura. She walked through the lobby of the new Sterling Holdings Strategy Department office. The crisp click of her heels echoed on the floor. It was an elegant sound, yet it carried a faint air of authority. She didn't look like a new employee reporting for duty. She looked more like the big boss making an inspection tour. Her presence drew the gazes of many employees in the department. At first glance, they were stunned into silence. Then, on second glance, some found her familiar. And upon recognition, they gasped, even more shocked. A low murmur rippled through the office. Claire paid no mind to the stares. She did, however, glance down at her outfit, and a smile touched her lips as she remembered the antics she and a certain little pervert had gotten up to a few days ago while trying on clothes at home. She took out her phone and sent a text to her boyfriend. I'm at the office. A reply came back almost instantly. How is it? Are you nervous? The corner of Claire's mouth curved up again as she typed. So nervous. What if they don't hire me after the interview? A sincere worry from the next heir of Sterling Holdings. Another text came back, filled with her boyfriend's heartfelt comfort. That can't happen. I'm waiting to live off you. You have to do well. You have to land this job. Claire couldn't help but laugh. She was completely oblivious to the fact that her smile had just caused a wave of petrification among the Sterling employees at their desks. She happily typed a reply. Okay, you just wait to live off me. I'll ace this interview. Putting her phone away, Claire had arrived at the door of the strategy department's general manager. She knocked. Then, she pushed the door open and walked in. The moment she entered, everyone in the office, from the general manager to the 7 division managers and the finance director, all 9 executives of the Sterling strategy department, shot to their feet. Miss Sterling. The smile that had been on her face while texting her boyfriend instantly vanished. Claire's gaze swept over the executives. She gave a cool nod. I'm here to report for duty. Just treat me like a new employee. Please have a seat. On the first floor of the Global Financial Center, Leo wandered through the bright, spacious lobby like a tourist. He made his way to the elevator bank, swiped the key card David Chung had given him, and selected his floor. As the elevator ascended smoothly toward the 61st floor, Leo took the opportunity to admire the interior. As expected of the new landmark of East Bay, the tallest newly built office tower in Asia was truly something else. This space, these materials, this security camera, the elevator even had its own fragrance. He took a couple of sniffs, his face a picture of appreciation. It smelled expensive, but why did it smell a little like his wife's perfume? What a coincidence. Global Financial Center, 57th floor. The sprawling new office of the Sterling Holdings Strategy Department. The entire workspace was quiet, eerily quiet. You could hear a pin drop. It wasn't that the 200 or so elite employees of the department were always this focused and meticulous. It was all because of the cool, radiant woman who had just walked in. At first, only a few people who happened to look up recognized her. Then, the news spread like wildfire from one desk to the next, until it had reached every corner of the 57th floor. She's here, the future heir of the Sterling family, the legendary Miss Sterling, who is said to possess both beauty and brains, is here. Initially, the news that the future heir was joining the company was known only to a select few at the very top of the corporate ladder. But a secret like that couldn't be kept for long. It quickly spread through the various departments of the group. Over the past few months, as Claire had sat in on meetings in different departments, the entire company had heard the rumors that she would be choosing one of them as her starting point. Everyone was both nervous and excited. They speculated wildly amongst themselves. Some risk-takers even started an office pool, taking bets on which department she would choose. It almost became a new industry within the company. But until today, no one knew her final decision. Until just now, when a beautiful woman in a sharp business suit, a black blazer and pencil skirt paired with high heels, walked confidently into the office space on the 57th floor. That cool, mature, and stunning figure officially announced the heir's decision to join the strategy department. Seeing it with their own eyes almost sent the 300 or so employees of the department into a frenzy. Damn, she came to our department. Out of all the departments in the group, Miss Sterling chose us. Take that, you scumbags in HR, you pigs in marketing, you idiots in legal, and you useless drones in logistics. Our strategy department is the best in the group. The moment Claire had walked into the general manager's office, the elites in the main office area had almost erupted in cheers, ready to pop champagne. But once the office door closed, the workspace fell silent again in an instant. Everyone held their breath, straining to catch even a whisper from inside the office. It was confirmed that she was joining their department. But which position would she take? The suspense remained. While the 57th floor was dead silent, the 61st floor was a scene of joyous chaos. The employees of Happy Nest were practically delirious with excitement. Just a while ago, while packing up at the old office on Wanning Road, they had been overcome with nostalgia and sentimentality. But now that they were actually in their new home, all of that was forgotten. The moment they walked into the lobby of the Global Financial Center, carrying their boxes, they were all rendered speechless. Holy crap, this entrance, these high ceilings, these lights, this glow, this receptionist. With every gasp of awe, 10% of their nostalgia for the old office evaporated. Sentimentality level, minus 10%, minus 10%, minus 10%. Then they got into the elevator. Another 3 gasps of awe. Holy crap, this elevator is huge. The mirrors are so shiny. And it smells so good. Sentimentality level, minus 30%. Finally, when the elevator doors opened, the Happy Nest employees rushed out, their eyes wide. They were completely blown away by the 38,000 square foot, super high floor office with its 360-degree panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows and unparalleled views. One employee, recovering his senses, let out a strange cry. Holy crap, I declare that from now on, the company is my home. A chorus of excited cheers and wolf-like howls followed. Their nostalgia for the old office was now officially at zero. What little building? Never heard of it. When Leo arrived on the 61st floor and walked into the office, the Happy Nest employees, still buzzing with excitement, swarmed around their CSO, chattering excitedly. Little Boss Lynn, look, our new home. The windows are 360 degrees. You can see all of Lujiazui. Little Boss Lynn, look at my desk. It's 3 times bigger than before. Little Boss Lynn, we have 6 conference rooms. 6. Little Boss Lynn, look, there are 2 break rooms and 2 employee lounges. This new office is amazing. I'd work here even if you didn't pay me. Leo listened with a smile, nodding and responding to each of them, calming their excitement. All right, calm down. Don't worry. The company will only get better from here. This is your desk? It is big. Congratulations. Hey, who was it just now who said they'd work for free? Talk is cheap. Come on. Sign here. Leave a thumbprint. We need evidence. That last sentence caught Leo's attention. The result was that the crowd of employees around him instantly scattered. Leo was left standing there, unable to grab anyone, a look of regret on his face. Why'd you run so fast? Don't just talk the talk. Shaking his head, he walked further in. He'd been so busy listening to others show off that he, the company's CSO, hadn't even had a chance to see his own new office yet. Back at the old place on Wanning Road, the office space was so small and limited that he, the chief strategy officer, didn't even have his own office. When he needed to work, he'd just use David Cheng's office or find an empty desk outside. But things were different now. The company had moved to the tallest office building in Lujiazui in all of Asia. As the company's CSO, it was only reasonable that he get his own office. Compared to the excitement of his employees, Leo was very calm. The average age of the company's employees was less than 27. Young people, so excitable, getting this worked up over a new office. Unlike him, a dignified reincarnator with the experience of 2 lifetimes, his temperament was steady. What was that saying? To remain calm even when a mountain collapses before you. This one is the CEO's office, so this one next to it should be the CSO's office. A spacious office of over 1,000 square feet, including a reception area and a kitchenette, with a simple yet elegant and grand design, 270-degree panoramic windows overlooking the entire city of East Bay, and a sleek, 2-meter-long desk that exuded an air of authority. David Chung pushed the door open and walked in, looking puzzled at his partner who was standing frozen in place. "What are you doing? Why are you drooling at your own office?" Leo snapped back to reality. He nonchalantly wiped his mouth. His expression was unchanged. Nothing, just drooling for fun. After closing the door, the company's CEO and CSO sat down in the office to talk business. The main topic was the previously mentioned staff expansion. Every department needed to be reinforced. After all, more than half of their 38,000 square feet of office space was still empty. They couldn't let it go to waste. Sitting on the sofa, David Chung rambled on about the various requirements for hiring. Finally, unable to take it anymore, he slammed his hand on the table. "Are you even listening to me?" While the CEO was giving his serious briefing, a certain chief strategy officer was sitting at his own desk, spinning gleefully in his new office chair. He was like a top, whizzing around and around. He finally stopped, looking a little dizzy. Leo rubbed his head. "I heard you. No problem. Set high standards for the new hires. Let HR handle the first 2 rounds. You lead the final interviews, and I'll sit in if I have time." Speaking of which, Leo remembered something. "Oh, right, but I might not have much free time from now on." When David Chung heard that, his first thought was that his scumbag partner was trying to slack off again. But this time, Leo wasn't actually trying to get out of work. He quickly explained the reason. David was stunned. "You're going to work at another company." What a novel idea. The esteemed chief strategy officer of Happy Nest, turning his back on his position to be a run-of-the-mill employee at some other company. What kind of brain comes up with that? Leo waved his hand. "Not another company. It's my wife's family's company. She's about to start working there, so I'm going with her to see if I can help her out." The light bulb went on for David. Oh, so that's it. He wasn't going to be a regular employee. He was going to be the company's son-in-law. David's curiosity was immediately piqued. "What kind of company does your wife's family own? Tell me. Maybe we can collaborate." The information the Happy Nest employees had about their CSO's girlfriend was scarce. There was the Aragorn and Arwen cosplay photo from the anime convention. They knew she was his high school and college classmate. They also knew she was ethereally beautiful, almost like a goddess, and that it was a total waste for her to be with their little boss Lynn. Other than that, they knew nothing. Leo glanced at David. This guy had a big mouth. If he told him, the whole company would know in no time. The guys at the company were already going crazy over just a photo of his Claire, practically worshipping her as a goddess. If they found out she was also the next heir to Sterling Holdings, wouldn't they lose their minds? Better to keep things simple. Leo shook his head. Her family is in manufacturing. No opportunities for collaboration with an internet company like ours. His curiosity unsatisfied, David was a little disappointed. "What do you mean, no opportunities? You have to create opportunities." Just a while ago, at the East Bay Entrepreneur Symposium, he had had a great conversation with the president of Sterling Holdings, Mr. Sterling. They had even agreed to have tea sometime and discuss potential collaborations. But since Leo wouldn't spill the beans, he decided to keep this to himself for now. When he actually sealed the deal, he'd have something to show off to this kid. Oh, speaking of which, hadn't Sterling's strategy department also moved to the Global Financial Center? They were neighbors now. He'd have to pay them a visit sometime. Given his current relationship with Chairman Sterling, even if they didn't become business allies, they could at least foster some friendly inter-company relations. With both business and personal matters discussed, Leo checked the time on his phone and got up from his desk. "All right, that's about it. I'm going to go find my wife. I still have to get my new job sorted out." As he was leaving, he couldn't help but cast a final, longing glance at his new office. Such a great office. He hadn't even had a chance to warm up the chair, and he probably wouldn't get to enjoy it much. After all, once he started working at Sterling Holdings, he wouldn't have many opportunities to come here. One office was in the Luigi Aswi Global Financial Center, the other at the Sterling Holdings headquarters building. A round trip would take 30 or 40 minutes. What a shame. David also got up from the sofa and walked Leo to the door, asking one last question. "Hey, what apartment are you going to? Do you know your position yet?" Leo waved his hand dismissively. "I haven't asked. I'll just go with whatever they give me when I get there. I have no preference. Whatever the department needs. I'll follow the arrangements." Global Financial Center, 57th floor, Sterling Strategy Department's general manager's office. Claire sat on the sofa, her posture elegant and impeccable. She looked every bit the part of a model new employee, but she was sitting on the sofa alone. Across from her, the 9 executives of the strategy department sat even more rigidly than she did. It didn't look like they were interviewing a new hire. It looked like she was interviewing all 9 of them. Just now, The general manager had braced himself and timidly asked, "Which position were you considering?" His posture suggested that if Claire had said she wanted his job, he would have given it up in a heartbeat, without a moment's hesitation. The other division managers were so nervous they could barely breathe. They were mainly afraid that Miss Sterling would suddenly take an interest in being a division manager, and they would be out of a job. The finance director wasn't worried about his position being replaced, but he was too busy panicking to feel relieved. He was desperately racking his brain, trying to remember if there were any problems with his recent accounts that she might uncover. Seeing the nervous and apprehensive expressions on the faces of the executives, Claire understood that she was putting too much pressure on them. She thought for a moment, then offered a reassuring word. "Don't be nervous. I came to the strategy department because I hope to start here, to familiarize myself with Sterling's business. I'm prepared to start from the bottom. Just find a junior position for me in one of the 7 divisions. Treat me as you would any other new hire." How to effectively reassure people, a case study. The moment the words left her mouth, the 9 executives froze, then became even more flustered. Miss Sterling as their subordinate. That was even more terrifying than her being their boss. Who would dare to give orders to this living ancestor? Ask her to make coffee? Make photocopies? Did they have a death wish? But Miss Sterling had spoken. They didn't dare to object. They exchanged frantic glances. In the end, it was again the general manager who stepped forward. "All right, in that case, Miss Sterling, why don't you take a break for a bit? I'll discuss this with the other department heads." Claire nodded and got up from the sofa. "Okay, you all discuss it. I'm going to get a glass of water." The Sterling Strategy Department's office on the 57th floor was laid out in an H shape, divided into 2 sections. A central corridor with the elevator bank connected the 2 areas. Claire came out of the general manager's office, intending to get some hot water. The break room was in the opposite B section. She asked an employee for directions. After getting the information from a nervously stammering staff member, Claire thanked them and headed for the break room. She got her hot water and happened to overhear a few employees chatting nearby. In their conversation, Claire unexpectedly heard the words Happy Nest. Only then did she learn that Happy Nest had also moved their company to the Global Financial Center. What a coincidence. They were neighbors with Sterling Holdings now. Claire's eyebrows arched slightly. Her first thought was of that mysterious, low-profile CISO of Happy Nest. For some inexplicable, intuitive reason, that guy intrigued her. She'd have to find a way to meet him. But she had heard from Charles Sterling a while back that he had met Happy Nest CEO, David Chung, at the city's entrepreneur symposium, and they had gotten along well. He had come home and told her about the young, brilliant CSO of Happy Nest, who was only in his early 20s and so much more accomplished than that kid Leo, and that he wanted to introduce her sometime. Thinking of this, Claire's eyes narrowed slightly. It was one thing to praise someone for being outstanding, but to use it to put down her own boyfriend was another matter entirely. Charles Sterling's little scheme was not appropriate. If that Happy Nest CSO had the potential to become a threat, when I get the chance to meet him, I'll find a way to handle him. Her mind plotting, Claire walked back from the B-section break room with her mug. As she was about to pass the elevator bank again, she saw one of the middle elevators descending from an upper floor, stopping at the 57th. Ding! The elevator doors opened. Claire subconsciously glanced in that direction. Inside the elevator, Leo, who was about to head downstairs to find his wife, was holding his phone, just about to send her a message. He was surprised when the elevator stopped on another floor. He looked up. His eyes met the cool, stunning, and all too familiar figure of a woman standing just outside the elevator doors. Inside and outside the elevator, their gazes met. A strange silence descended. Claire? Question mark. Leo. The last time the young couple had found themselves in such a mind-boggling situation, you'd have to go all the way back to last year at Claire's place in the Concord, Unit 1. According to their resident romance novel expert, Molly Tang, it was a scene straight out of. Back then, Leo Hammer Wallace had been shooting the breeze on the sofa of that high-rise apartment with the guy who couldn't afford cigarettes. The next second, Bertha Sue herself had walked through the door. It was the same shocked meeting of eyes, the same mutual confusion. That moment then was exactly this moment now. The elevator doors opened, and the instant he saw Claire, Leo's mind reflexively produced a single thought. The 61st floor really is too high. The thin air up here is making me see things. How else could he explain it? One second, he was thinking about pulling out his phone to text his girlfriend, and the next, she was standing right in front of him. He blinked. The hallucination was surprisingly lifelike. Vivid even. He must have opened the door wrong. He tried again. Leo reached for the closed door button, but then Claire's voice stopped him. Leo, what are you doing here? Her voice was as familiar as ever, a sound he'd heard thousands of times and still found enchanting. That snapped Leo back to reality. It wasn't a hallucination. The woman standing before him was his girlfriend, Bertha Sue, in the flesh. Now it was Claire's turn to be confused. She looked him up and down, taking in the sight of her boyfriend in the elevator. "Didn't you have something to do this morning? How did you get here so fast?" She paused, her brow furrowing in thought. "And how did you know I was reporting to the Sterling Holdings Operations Division?" Her few words carried a wealth of information. It took Leo less than 3/10 of a second to process it all. Another 1/10 of a second to glance past his girlfriend at the Sterling Holdings logo on the wall behind her with the words Operations Division underneath. And another 1.233 seconds for the shock to hit him. Holy shit. The miniature, cartoon version of himself that lived in his head, long absent from the scene, was completely dumbfounded. His mouth hung open in a perfect O wide enough to fit an egg. Dude, what the? The situation suddenly clicked into place. Bertha Sue was here today for her first day of work at Sterling Holdings, which meant Bertha Sue was at the East Bay Global Financial Center, which meant Sterling Holdings was also in the East Bay Global Financial Center. To be precise, the operations division, the most powerful and important part of the company, was located right here on the 57th floor. Therefore, Sterling Holdings and Happy Nest were now neighbors, separated by a mere 4 floors. Therefore, from now on, his dear Bertha Sue will be working in the very same building as his company, Happy Nest. Once he connected all the dots, Leo was speechless. Well, damn, his life really was worthy of a novel. The sheer improbability of this coincidence was off the charts. Just a little while ago, he'd been telling David Chung that once he started working at his girlfriend's company, he wouldn't have time to look after things at Happy Nest. Now it seemed he'd have more time. A trip upstairs or downstairs was a 30-second elevator ride. It was like popping over to a neighbor's house. He thought back to his conversation with his mentor, Governor Zhao, about getting to know the neighbors in their new office building. What was there to get to know? Their relationship with this particular neighbor was already at negative distance. Thinking about it now, even the governor's strange, almost gleeful tone on the phone made sense. After all, the most powerful man in East Bay was one of the very few people who knew both Leo's secret identity and his connection to Sterling Holdings. Damn it, that man really just lives for the drama. Leo's expression darkened, his lips twitching slightly. To Claire, this just made him look even more suspicious. She waved a hand in front of his face. "What are you spacing out for?" Leo snapped back, his mind racing at 100 miles an hour, and he instantly came up with a plan. Stepping out of the elevator, he explained, "Oh, it's nothing. I finished up my business, so I came to find you." Claire nodded, but her suspicion remained. "How did you know to come here? I'm pretty sure I never told you." The future president of Sterling Holdings was as sharp as ever. Unfortunately for her, the master bullshitter was a cut above. His expression was the very picture of righteousness. "Oh, I heard your dad mention it last time. When in doubt, just throw the old man under the bus." Finally, a look of understanding dawned on Claire's face. That made sense. It was the only explanation, really. There was no other reason her boyfriend would show up at the East Bay Global Financial Center. But then Claire paused, glancing back at the elevator. Wasn't that elevator coming down from upstairs? Danger. Will Robinson. A level 10 alarm blared in Leo's head. But his face remained a mask of calm. "Oh yeah, there's a 5-star hotel, the Park Hyatt, up on the 70th or 80th floor. I was bored, so I went up to check it out." He lowered his voice, leaning in close to her. "Maybe we can book a room for a night sometime." A single sentence was all it took. Claire blushed faintly and shot him a look, though her eyes were filled with a seductive glint. "You perv." Her tone was chiding, but it wasn't a no. He was in the clear. Leo let out a silent sigh of relief. Inside his head, his cartoon mini-me set off a barrage of fireworks and held up a scorecard with a perfect 10. Flawless. Absolutely flawless. That's why you're the hammer. This bluff was a masterstroke. With her questions answered, Claire was happy to see him. "Well, your timing is perfect. I haven't even finished my onboarding yet. Now that you're here, I'll go through it again with you." She took his arm and led him away from the elevators, heading toward the A-Wing offices. They chatted as they walked. "By the way," Claire mentioned casually, "Happy Nest is on a floor above us. I think they just moved in, too." Leo's heart didn't skip a beat. "Is that so? What a coincidence." Claire nodded. "Yeah, Mako Entertainment's Battle Through the Heavens game has a partnership with them, right? You could go up and say hi sometime." Leo's expression remained unchanged, but his pupils contracted slightly. "That's probably not necessary. I don't know them that well." Claire seemed lost in thought. "I'm actually pretty interested. I'd especially like to meet their mysterious CSO. Leo's interest was piqued. Oh, are you a fan? If you meet him, are you going to ask for a photo and an autograph? Claire shook her head. No. Her eyes narrowed. If I meet him, I'll see if I can handle him. Leo froze. Question mark. His pupils dilated in shock. By officially joining Sterling Holdings and starting at the operations division, Claire fully intended to begin reacclimating herself to the corporate world and gradually taking over the family business, starting from its very core. At school, she was the cool and ethereal campus beauty. With her boyfriend, she was an affectionate, smiling girlfriend. But when it came to work, the rational and decisive persona of her past lives, Sterling Holdings' president, naturally resurfaced. Starting with the most logical approach, a direct takeover of the division wasn't the best choice right now. The Sterling Holdings of 2009 was in a different state than the one she had inherited in her past life. While she still possessed the experience and skills, she needed to refamiliarize herself with the current state of the company's departments. That was why she decided to start from a lower to mid-level position. At the same time, while she was happy to have her boyfriend joining the company with her, Claire was a professional who kept her work and private life separate. She wasn't here to flaunt their relationship in front of her future subordinates. Besides, it wouldn't be good for her lovable idiot if his identity as the boss's son-in-law was revealed before he had earned any recognition on his own. She would first help her boyfriend get familiar with the work environment at Sterling. With her guidance, he could quickly build up a record of achievements. So, for now, they would keep their relationship a secret. Having made this decision, Claire quickly explained it to Leo. Leo, of course, had no objections. He had agreed to join Sterling Holdings to help his girlfriend, and operating as an ordinary new employee would make it easier to gather information. If he revealed his identity right away, he'd draw too much attention, making it harder to get things done. There was another, more important reason. Leo Hammer Wallace was used to operating under an alias. Revealing his true status from the start would just feel wrong. So, when his girlfriend suggested it, he readily agreed, his interest piqued. So, what alias should I use this time? Wyatt Way, Kevin Zhao, Mr. Joe, or James Sterling. Claire didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She gave her foolish boyfriend a sharp rap on the head. James, your head. You'll just be Leo Wallace. Having reached an agreement, the couple naturally put some distance between them as they entered the main office floor. Claire walked ahead, with Leo following a few steps behind. They fell silent. Claire slipped back into her innate, coolly detached demeanor. The click of her heels on the floor was confident and elegant, and she projected an aura that warned strangers to keep their distance, making people hesitant to even meet her gaze. A certain handsome young man was, of course, the exception. Following a few yards behind his girlfriend to maintain their cover, Leo's eyes never left her back. He watched with great appreciation and silent admiration. That's my Bertha Sue, all right, the former president of Sterling Holdings. Even though this was her first day in this life, the moment she stepped back into the company, she looked like she was returning to her home turf. The professional attire made her look less innocent than usual, but it added a mature, cold beauty that was even more captivating. Leo couldn't tear his eyes away. From the corner of his eye, however, he noticed other employees from the operations division. They were peeking over their cubicle walls, their faces a mixture of awe and infatuation. That started to annoy him. The hell? She's my girlfriend. I can look, but what right do you guys have? He shot them a glare. To his surprise, they glared right back. The hell? Who are you? Just some new guy. Why are you following Miss Sterling and staring so brazenly? A fierce, silent war of glares erupted between Leo and a whole section of cubicles. His eyes started to burn from the effort. It wasn't until they passed the open office area and reached a corner, temporarily out of sight, that Claire turned to make sure her boyfriend hadn't gotten lost. She saw him rubbing his eyes and asked quietly, a little surprised, "What's wrong?" Leo answered, his eyes still aching, "Nothing, just a little eye strain. It wasn't a big deal. These Sterling employees would one day be his girlfriend's subordinates, which meant they'd be his subordinates too. He, Leo Wallace, was a magnanimous man. He wouldn't hold such a petty thing against them." Claire watched him rummaging through his bag. "What are you looking for?" Leo, head down, replied, "Oh, nothing. Just checking to see if I still have my little notebook." They finally arrived at the general manager's office. Claire pushed the door open and went in first. Inside, the various department managers and the financial director had already left. After a tense discussion, the final decision had been made by the GM, Mr. Young, who was tasked with relaying the outcome to the young Miss Sterling. Sitting at his desk, Mr. Young was nervous. They had spent a long time deliberating, but he had no idea if Miss Sterling would be satisfied with their proposal. Hearing the door open, He looked up and saw Claire. He shot up from his chair as if on a spring. Miss Sterling, we've just discussed it. There are no open entry-level positions right now, and having you start as an intern would be inappropriate. We all agreed that the best fit for your needs and a role that would allow you to utilize your talents would be a management position. We'd like to place you as a team supervisor in the marketing department under Operations Division 3. He delivered his prepared speech in one breath, then looked at Claire cautiously. What do you think of this arrangement? Is it satisfactory? The hierarchy in the Sterling Operations Division, from top to bottom, was General Manager, Vice President, Division Manager, Project Director, Team Supervisor, Team Lead, and basic professional roles. A team lead was the lowest management position. A team supervisor was a step above, a core position in lower management. The rank wasn't too high, which was just right. Claire thought for a moment and nodded. Fine. That one word was enough to make Mr. Young, the head of the entire division, breathe a huge sigh of relief. But he hadn't even finished exhaling when Claire added another sentence. By the way, I have someone else here who needs to be on board. You can arrange that as well. Mr. Young froze. Then he saw a figure step in from outside the door, coming to stand beside the young Miss Sterling. Claire made the introduction for her boyfriend. This is the general manager of the operations division, Mr. Young. Leo nodded politely at the still-dazed Mr. Young, offering a bright smile. Mr. Young, a pleasure. Claire then turned to the head of her division, her introduction equally concise. This is Leo Wallace, my boyfriend. They had to keep their relationship a secret from most of the company, but there was no need to hide it from the head of the division. Mr. Young was one step away from being a corporate vice president. He was a true core member of Sterling Holdings. There was no point in hiding things from him. He might have already heard rumors from the top brass anyway. As it turned out, he had. Mr. Young audibly sucked in a breath, his eyes darting up and down, scrutinizing Leo. He swallowed nervously, wrung his hands, and said carefully, "Oh, about Mr. Wallace's work assignment. Mr. Sterling has already provided his guidance on the matter." Author's note: I know you all want to see his cover blown, but if I did it your way, the pacing would be a mess. I have to write at my own pace. The reveal of his Happy Nest identity will be a major, thrilling climax. But it's not far off. The book will probably be finished around July, anyway. Now, please send your Power Stones and gifts. According to the current, unnamed chairman of Sterling Holdings. What position? Let that little bastard build some character first. Have him start by cleaning the toilets 3 times a day. Only after a kind subordinate reminded him that the East Bay Global Financial Center had its own dedicated cleaning staff for each floor, and that such an arrangement would be taking food out of someone else's mouth, did the chairman grumble and change his mind. Fine, let the kid start as an intern. And you people in the operations division, don't go easy on him. Don't treat him like Charles Sterling's son-in-law or some big shot. He's just a brick. Wherever you need one, that's where you throw him. Don't hesitate to dump all the dirty, tiring work on him. What's that old saying? When heaven is about to confer a great responsibility on any man, it first exercises his mind with suffering and his sinews and bones with toil. You guys toil him to death. The chairman, who was deeply respected and revered by his employees for his stern authority, only showed this unguarded side to a few trusted confidants. The current head of the operations division, General Manager Young, had fought alongside the chairman for 16 years and was one of his most trusted and favored core officers. At work, they were superior and subordinate. Outside of work, they were as close as brothers. That was why the chairman felt comfortable in trusting his subordinate with his true feelings, clapping him on the shoulder before he left and saying earnestly, "You've been with me for almost 20 years, kid. In all of Sterling Holdings, besides Mr. Joe, you're my most trusted general. So I'm leaving this in your hands. Do a good job for me, and remember to cover for me. Say it was your idea. Don't let that girl Claire know it came from me." At the time, Mr. Young had agreed without a second thought. He had been entrusted with great responsibility for 16 years. He would walk through fire for his boss. In the GM's office, Claire frowned slightly. An intern, and he can't be in my department or on my team. Was this all Charles Sterling's idea? Mr. Young nodded quickly, without hesitation. Yes, those were the chairman's exact words. I tried to argue, but I couldn't change his mind. There was nothing I could do. He'd walked through fire for official business. But taking the fall for his boss's personal grudges? That was another story entirely. As the head of the operations division, Mr. Young hadn't gotten where he was by being a fool. He knew which orders had to be followed to the letter, even at great personal cost, and which ones were just his boss trying to find a scapegoat to face his daughter's wrath. The company's senior management had a tacit understanding on this matter, forged through many painful experiences. The lesson was clear. When it came to disputes between the big boss and the young Miss Sterling, stay out of it. Get as far away as possible. When gods fight, what's an innocent ant like him supposed to do? He tossed the hot potato back with lightning speed, planting it squarely on his boss's head. Claire frowned again. In their personal life, she could choose to ignore her father's opinions. But at work, a decision made by the current chairman of Sterling Holdings had to be respected, even by the future heir. She glanced over at her boyfriend. Noticing her gaze, Leo just smiled and waved his hand. I don't mind. An internship is fine. I'm just a college student with no experience at a big company like this. It's perfectly normal to start as an intern to learn the ropes. Her boyfriend's unwavering understanding and support warmed her heart. She gave him a small smile, then turned back to Mr. Young, her tone softening. All right, we'll do as the chairman says. Besides, the arrangement wasn't entirely wrong. Sterling Holdings had never been a place for nepotism. Claire herself had only earned her management position through a solid track record, like her work during the Southwest quake relief efforts. For a new hire, starting as an intern was perfectly reasonable. Being the Sterling family's son-in-law didn't grant him an exception. Her father's intentions were good, however misguided, and, as his daughter, she wouldn't bicker over the details. Claire turned to her boyfriend. By the way, let me borrow that little notebook of yours later. Even with family, you keep accounts. Such a kind gesture from her father certainly needed to be recorded. Mr. Young, unaware of what was happening, was just relieved to hear Miss Sterling's acquiescence. He nodded repeatedly. Good. I'm glad you understand. He paused, remembering the chairman's years of kindness to him, and couldn't resist adding a good word. Actually, the chairman is doing this for both of your sakes. I completely understand and support his decision. Claire glanced at the division manager, smiled, and nodded. You're right. She'd just add another name to the notebook later. Normally, new hires had to go to the HR office to complete the onboarding process. But with Mr. Young present, he handled everything for Leo and Claire on the spot, having them fill out and sign the forms at his office and sending them to HR to be filed later. It was quick and simple. As the new marketing team supervisor for Operations Division 3, Claire took her paperwork and headed off to her new department. She was even getting her own office. An intern at the bottom of the corporate ladder like Leo, of course, received no such treatment. He didn't even have a permanent desk. He'd have to go to the open plan office and find an empty spot. Totally up to fate. It was time for them to part ways. Claire looked at Leo. I'm heading off then. Leo nodded. Sure, I'll go report in too. See if I can find a desk with a good view. He needed to stay far away from that section he'd passed earlier. After that intense staring contest, he felt like he'd already made enemies. Claire nodded. Just before leaving, she remembered something and looked back at him. Kiss me. Leo froze, instinctively glancing at Mr. Young, who was standing nearby. Isn't this a bad time? There are people here. Before he could finish, a fragrant breeze washed over him. Without giving him time to react, Claire leaned in and planted a quick kiss on his lips. Then, satisfied, she nodded. I'm leaving. Bye-bye. With that, she turned and walked away, her heels clicking elegantly, leaving a graceful, swaying silhouette in her wake. Back in the office, Leo touched his lips where he'd just been ambushed. He turned to Mr. Young and cleared his throat. You know, we're not usually like this. The division manager nodded gravely, his pupils dilated in shock. I believe you. Leaving the general manager's office, Leo took his onboarding form and, following Mr. Yang's directions, headed to the HR department. He went alone this time. Without Bertha Sue by his side, he was far less conspicuous, just an ordinary new hire. The HR manager for the operations division was a man in his 40s. He looked a little surprised when he saw Leo. This new guy is young and handsome. Reminds me of myself back in the day. He took the form from Leo, glanced at the information, and let out an impressed, "Oh, Berkeley? A top student, huh? And you're starting an internship as a sophomore?" His gaze became even more appreciative. He called over an employee and told him to get Leo his ID badge and help him find a desk. As Leo was leaving, the manager clapped him on the shoulder encouragingly. Work hard, kid. The future of Sterling Holdings is yours. Leo, the future son-in-law of Sterling Holdings, thought for a moment and gave a truthful nod. Indeed, the HR employee assigned to help Leo was in his late 20s and was quite friendly and talkative. As he led the way, he chatted enthusiastically, telling Leo all about the Sterling Holdings operations division. He couldn't hide the pride he felt working there. Sterling is the top leading enterprise in East Bay, and our operations division is the most core department in the company. Everyone who works here is an elite, top-tier talent. Listening, Leo nodded in agreement. This was a quality that only a company with deep roots could possess, a sense of honor and belonging among its employees. They could walk out the door and proudly state the name of their company. This kind of cohesion and loyalty was the real reason Sterling had stood strong through 2 decades of challenges, growing ever more powerful. Happy Nest was gradually developing the same quality. Its employees were also incredibly proud and identified strongly with their company. There was just one difference. When asked by outsiders or peers where they worked, they weren't nearly as forthcoming. The Happy Nest crew would, without batting an eye, say things like, "Oh, I'm with Nexus," or "My company's not famous," or "Happy Nest. Never heard of it." They'd slap on an alias in a heartbeat, never revealing their true identities. On one hand, it was because Happy Nest was in the spotlight, surrounded by circling wolves, so employees needed to keep a low profile to avoid being targeted. On the other hand, these aliases sometimes allowed them to gather valuable intel from industry peers and even competitors. At this point, everyone at the company was as cunning as a fox. They'd practically trained themselves to be spies. He had no idea who they learned that from. Leo's mind began to wander. The HR employee, Stan Shi, thought Leo didn't believe him and got a little anxious. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned in and lowered his voice. "I'll tell you a secret. Even the young heir of Sterling Holdings, our next leader, Miss Sterling, started right here in our division when she decided to begin taking over the company. You got lucky, kid. Miss Sterling just reported in, and you came right after. Hey, that makes you 2 part of the same onboarding class." Leo played along, nodding in agreement. Yeah, what a coincidence. Same class? That's nothing. If you want to get technical, Bertha Sue and I are desk mates, classmates, roommates, and bedmates. We're practically one big happy commune. Stan seemed like a good guy. Leo decided not to tell him the truth, for fear of scaring the man to death. The onboarding form went to HR, but the ID badge had to be picked up from the administration department. Leo hadn't gotten a good look at his own company's floor on the 61st, but now, walking through the 57th floor of Sterling's operations division, he got a proper tour of the massive office space. Nice. He'd have his own team at Happy Nest copy this layout. Plagiarizing his girlfriend's company wasn't a crime. At the administration office, Stan Shi greeted a few colleagues he knew, saying he was helping a new intern get his badge. The admin staff were mostly young women, mostly in their early 20s, the oldest no more than 30. They were all vibrant and pretty. When they saw Leo walking behind Stan, their eyes lit up and they let out excited squeals. A flurry of teasing immediately followed. "Ooh, he's so handsome. He looks like a student. How old are you, honey? Are you even legal? Starting an internship so early. Do you have a girlfriend? Nervous about your first day? If you don't know anything, your big sisters here can teach you, hand in hand." These were admin employees at Sterling Holdings. They were all business elites to have been hired. They must have been bored today because they latched onto the handsome new kid and teased him relentlessly like a pack of wolves. Leo wasn't fazed. He smiled and told them he already had a girlfriend. A collective sigh of disappointment went through the office, but they quickly recovered, laughing and joking. That's okay. Having a girlfriend isn't a life sentence. If you swing the pickaxe hard enough, there's no wall you can't dig through. They really have a death wish, every single one of them. Finally, Stan Shi, unable to watch his new little brother get teased like this, stepped in to heroically put a stop to it. He helped Leo get his badge, and they left the admin office. The moment the door closed, Stan's righteous demeanor vanished, replaced by a sly grin. "So, lots of beauties in our division, right? And that's not even the best of it. You know the Happy Nest rating system? The girls in admin are maybe a 6, but we've got some 7s and even 8s in the department." Stan was practically glowing. Of course, they all pale in comparison to Miss Sterling. She's a 9, maybe even a perfect 10. It's a shame, though. I hear she has a boyfriend. What kind of dogshit luck is that? A perfect flower stuck in a pile of manure. Don't you think so, brother? Leo nodded emphatically. Absolutely, absolutely. By the way, Stan, what was your last name again? Stan answered cheerfully. Chi. Stan Chi. Hey, why are you writing my name in that little notebook? With Stan's help, Leo got his badge and picked out an empty desk in the southern section of the open office area. After giving Leo a few more pointers and telling him someone would be by later to assign him his intern tasks, Stan waved a cheerful goodbye and left. As he walked away, he felt a warm sense of satisfaction. The new kid seemed nice, pretty innocent, and grateful too. He just helped him out a little, and the kid had made a special point of writing his name down in a notebook. Once Stan was gone, Leo was alone. He looked at his newly assigned desk. This would be his little corner for his time as a Sterling intern. He pulled out the chair and sat down. It was all right. Not nearly as good as his CSO chair upstairs at Happy Nest, though. The person who was supposed to brief him hadn't arrived yet. Leo sat at his desk, bored, and looked around. He pulled out his phone, about to text his girlfriend and see how she was doing. Before he could type, he heard the click-clack of high heels approaching. A pleasant female voice spoke up. "You must be the new intern." "Huh." The final sound was a gasp of surprise. The voice was strangely familiar. Leo looked up. His eyes met a pretty, delicately made-up face. The woman's mouth was slightly agape, her expression one of utter shock. Leo recognized her too. He had just seen her that morning on the subway. The one who was blocking the door. Leo's eyes widened. "It's you?" This was Evelyn Vance's second year at Sterling Holdings. To be precise, she had graduated with honors from East Bay Foreign Language University last June and was recruited by the company straight out of college. After a 3-month probationary period, she became a full-time employee last September and was assigned to the operations division, the absolute core of the company. A full-time employee at Sterling's operations division. It was a glamorous job in the eyes of others, an opportunity her friends and classmates envied. She had worked hard for it, and she cherished it. From the start of her internship, she had put in double the effort of anyone else, diligently completing every task assigned to her. Her attitude and ability earned her praise from colleagues and superiors alike. After becoming a permanent employee, she didn't slack off for a moment, throwing herself completely into her work. In over half a year, she had never been late or left early, even though her apartment was a long commute from the office. Every morning and evening, she squeezed onto a crowded subway, never once complaining about the hardship. Dressed in her work attire, carrying her bag, and wearing heels, she could navigate the swarming subway station with the speed of an 800-meter dash, carving a path through the crowd to clock in on time. Today, that record was broken, and it was all because of an infuriating young man. She was 5'6", 105 pounds, with a slender yet curvy figure. In terms of looks, back in college, a university famous for its beautiful women, while no official campus queen was ever crowned, Evelyn Vance was undeniably recognized as one of the prettiest graduates of the class of '08. Her features were delicate, her eyes bright and clear as water, captivating without effort. She had shed the innocent air of a student and, now in the professional world, with light makeup and loosely curled hair, she exuded a natural mix of pure charm and cool sophistication. In college, her admirers were endless. After graduation, her daily commute in professional attire always drew countless admiring and curious glances on the subway. It wasn't uncommon for men to try and strike up a conversation, but Evelyn was focused on her career and had no interest in romance. Occasionally, when chatting with close colleagues or friends, she would lament the hardships of work and wish for a sweet relationship to recharge her batteries. This would always be met with scorn from her friends. "You're all talk. If you want a boyfriend so bad, go find one. You've been saying that for years, and you're still single." It was true. From college until now, she had been too busy with studies or work. She talked about wanting a boyfriend, but had never succeeded in finding one. But she was different from others. Some people genuinely couldn't find anyone and could only live vicariously through novels and TV shows. She, on the other hand, had it all, but had never met anyone who truly clicked with her. Until today, on the subway, a young man had kindly and proactively created a small space for her in the crowded car, a rare moment of warmth in the cold reality of the big city. What was even rarer was his effortlessly handsome and refined air. It made her heart flutter. He was a younger guy, but for someone like him, she wouldn't mind a May-December romance. The woman who was a goddess in others' eyes was, in fact, quite capable of a rich fantasy life. In that brief moment, standing so close to him, Evelyn, an avid consumer of novels and dramas, had unconsciously conjured up an entire, sickeningly sweet love story in her mind. Of course, fantasy was fantasy. She maintained her composure. But when she saw the student-like young man gather his courage, as if to ask for her number, she decided to be generous and proactive herself, ready to give him her contact information. Perhaps it could be the beautiful start of a little romance. But she had imagined all sorts of scenarios. She had seen all kinds of ridiculous plot twists in books and on screen. She had seen absurd, but she had never seen this level of absurd. "Excuse me, can you let me by? This is my stop." A single sentence shattered all her beautiful fantasies in an instant. The warmth in the subway car vanished without a trace, and the cold reality of the city returned with a vengeance, nearly freezing the beautiful Miss Vance in place like a statue. She watched, stunned, as the righteous figure got off the train and walked away. It wasn't until the subway doors slowly closed that the sophisticated bell of East Bay Foreign Language University's class of '08 snapped out of her daze with a horrified gasp. Wait a minute. I haven't gotten off yet. The train was already moving. At the next stop, Evelyn scrambled out of the car, sprinted to the other side of the platform, and caught a train heading back in the opposite direction. Then, in her heels and carrying her bag, she sprinted through the station like she was running for her life. Finally, she burst into the East Bay Global Financial Center. Inside the elevator, she watched the floor numbers climb with agonizing slowness. Sweating and panting, she finally lunged at the time clock. She was exactly 37 seconds late. Her perfect attendance record for the month was shattered, ruined. Returning to her desk under the surprised gazes of her colleagues, Evelyn felt a rare wave of dejection. She had just sat down when she realized how much her feet ached from running in heels. The thought made her feel even more miserable, and she was on the verge of tears. After finally pulling herself together and getting ready to work, she was called over and given a new task. A new intern had started today, and she was to be his mentor. Evelyn herself had been an intern just a few months ago. She knew how tough it was at Sterling. She felt a sense of empathy. Despite the frustrating morning, she pushed her feelings aside and decided to adopt the kind and patient attitude of a senior colleague to guide the newcomer. As she walked over, she saw the intern's figure at a desk in the distance and thought he looked familiar. She was still wondering why when she got closer. The intern looked up, revealing a face that was still handsome and charming, and utterly, infuriatingly detestable. What rotten luck! Of all the people, it was him. The disastrous events of the morning flashed through her mind. Evelyn gritted her teeth, struggling to contain her rising anger. What a coincidence! So you work at Sterling. Leo looked at the inexplicably furious woman in front of him. You work here too? Then, as if remembering something, he asked, Hey, why didn't you get off at that stop earlier? Evelyn's eye twitched. Snap! That was the sound of her last thread of sanity breaking. The beautiful Miss Vance was moments away from kicking her size 7 heel directly into this little bastard's face. Why didn't I get off? You tell me why I didn't get off. Do you have any idea? Evelyn felt like she was using up a lifetime's worth of self-control to keep from seeing red. Calm down, calm down. Don't stoop to his level. Breathe. The world is a beautiful place. Anger causes wrinkles. This is bad, very bad. She managed to squeeze out a smile at Leo. It's fine. I was just daydreaming and missed my stop. His response was a knowing nod and a piece of well-intentioned advice. You should be more careful next time. You don't want to be late. Her temperature shot up again. She nearly burst a blood vessel. Evelyn, stay calm. Murder is illegal. Murder is illegal. Gritting her teeth, she forced another smile. Okay, thanks for the reminder. Then she took a deep breath, turning her attention back to the task at hand. She needed to brief the new intern on his duties and the rules of the Sterling Operations Division. It was mostly grunt work, making copies, organizing files, and occasionally getting coffee or water for colleagues when they were thirsty. As she forced herself to calm down, Evelyn meticulously explained the internship tasks to Leo. He listened attentively, occasionally nodding, and even taking notes in a small notebook he pulled from his bag. As she spoke, Evelyn glanced at him a few times. Seeing how seriously he was taking this, even writing things down, her anger began to subside. She found herself nodding inwardly, her opinion of him changing. His work ethic seems decent enough. He even knows to take notes. Wait, what's written on the previous pages of that notebook? It looks like a long list of names. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she asked about it. Leo answered cheerfully, Oh, it's nothing. Just a list of people I need to pay. Pay my respects to in the future. Evelyn was taken aback. Her surprise and admiration for the young intern grew. The good impression she'd lost that morning was slowly returning. So young, and yet so mindful of repaying his debts of gratitude. That's a rare quality. Her tone and attitude softened considerably. My name is Evelyn Vance. You're probably a few years younger than me, so you could just call me Evelyn. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Now gather your things. I'll show you where the copy machine and the break room are. She took a step, but a sharp pain shot through her foot, causing her to stumble and suck in a breath. From behind her came a concerned question. Are you okay? Evelyn, were you running earlier? You shouldn't do strenuous exercise in heels. It's bad for your ankles. Her sanity snapped again. Evelyn was on the verge of a third meltdown. Whose fault is this? You tell me whose fault this is. She clenched her fists, repeatedly reminding herself of the company policy that promoted harmony among colleagues and strictly forbade assaulting interns. Evelyn led the intern, Leo Hammer Wallace, on a tour of all the office equipment. Finally, she took him to the break room. As they once again passed the corridor in front of the elevators, Leo subconsciously glanced at the one he'd come down in. He mused on what a coincidence it had been. Normally, employees from different companies could only access their own floors. The elevators wouldn't stop on other floors on the way up, and you could only call an elevator to go down from your own floor, so you'd never run into someone going up. It had been an incredible stroke of luck that someone on the 57th floor had called a downward elevator at the exact moment he was coming down, and that the doors had opened right as his girlfriend was walking by. He felt like the main character of a novel. He'd have to be more careful in the future when going up to Happy Nest. As Leo's mind drifted, Evelyn, walking beside him, noticed his expression. She raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "First time here?" she asked. "Our division just moved to the Global Financial Center, too. This is one of the most prestigious office buildings in East Bay, maybe even the country. Only the top talents from every industry get to work here. If you work hard, you might be able to stay on after your internship." Evelyn was 23. She had only graduated half a year ago, but looking at Leo, who was just a sophomore, she felt like an adult looking at a child. Her tone naturally took on a slightly instructive quality. Leo, of course, nodded humbly, accepting her guidance. Then, as if remembering something, Evelyn said, "By the way, a boy your age must know about Happy Nest, right? Their office is right above us on the 61st floor. If you're lucky, you might even get to see their mysterious CSO." Leo thought for a moment, unsure how to respond. Out of politeness, he just said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Evelyn led Leo to the break room in B Wing. A few female employees were getting water. They seemed to know Evelyn and greeted her with smiles. Then they saw Leo behind her. Their eyes lit up. The gossip started immediately, asking where she'd found such a handsome young man. When they learned he was a new intern, their interest grew, and they teased him just like the women in the admin office had. One of them giggled, "Your timing is perfect. The chairman's daughter, Miss Sterling, just started today, too. A handsome boy like you might just catch her eye and marry into the family." This comment was met with laughter from the others. "Oh, forget about Miss Sterling. She's way out of our league. Leo, honey, why don't you try winning over Evelyn instead? Your sister Evelyn is the prettiest flower in our entire division, you know." The banter made Evelyn blush. She playfully slapped her friends. "What are you talking about? He's just a kid who just started his internship. Don't you she-devils corrupt him." After some more laughing and joking, Evelyn waved a hand at Leo. "All right, we're going to chat for a bit. You can go back to your desk." Leo had no desire to get caught in a storm of female gossip. He nodded, said his goodbyes, and made a swift exit. On his way back to his desk, he pulled out his phone and sent a text to his girlfriend. "What are you up to? How's it going?" A reply came back almost instantly. "Just picked out my office. Thinking of you." It was followed by Bertha Sue's signature lipstick kiss emoji. Seductive and alluring. She was on a whole other level than the women in the break room. Leo smiled, put his phone away, and walked back to his desk. Meanwhile, in the supervisor's office of Operations Division 3, Claire Sterling looked at the text she had just sent, a small smile playing on her lips. The division manager stood beside her desk, tense, trying to guess who Miss Sterling was texting that made her so happy. It must be the chairman, right? Such a loving father-daughter relationship. Incredible. He sighed inwardly with admiration, then cleared his throat and asked cautiously, Supervisor Sterling, is there anything else you need?" Claire snapped back to the present and put her phone away. "Oh, nothing for now." Then, as if remembering something, she added, "Actually, yes. I need to pick some people. Give me a list of the employees in this division." As a new marketing team supervisor, she needed to build team. But in this life, she had just started and didn't know much about the current employees. However, in her past life, there was one person who had been an excellent choice. If she remembered correctly, that person should be working in this very division right now. The newly appointed supervisor, Bertha Sue, was already in work mode. The new intern, Leo the Hammer, had returned to his desk from the break room and was now leisurely spacing out. First day on the job, and it seemed like being an intern at Sterling Holdings was a pretty cushy gig. Not like at his own company, Happy Nest, where every day was. Oh wait, it was pretty much the same. He had a lot of free time at Happy Nest, too. It couldn't be helped. His partners and employees were just too hard-working and capable, leaving him, the CSO, with little to do. Sitting at his desk, Leo peered over the cubicle divider, his gaze sweeping across the open office. He watched the employees of the Sterling Operations Division, all diligently focused on their work, and nodded with satisfaction. So hard-working. Excellent. Occasionally, an employee would feel his gaze and look up, a puzzled expression on their face. What's with this intern? Why does he look like a boss inspecting his troops? He even looks pleased. Wake up, buddy. You're the new intern. Do you think you own the place? Leo's leisurely demeanor quickly drew some ire. Someone from a nearby cubicle called out to him. Hey, new guy. I'm Festi. Leo waved a hand dismissively. It's okay, I'm not thirsty. A question mark appeared over the other guy's head. He realized the misunderstanding and said, exasperated, I'm saying I'm thirsty. It finally clicked for Leo. Oh, what do you want? I'll get it for you. It was his first day as an intern, and he hadn't quite settled into the role yet. But if he was going to be an intern, he had to have the right attitude. Leo sprang up from his chair. The employee who had called him wanted coffee. Noted. As he walked past other desks, he enthusiastically asked, What can I get for you? You? Don't be shy. It's no trouble. You want something? No. How can you work all morning without drinking water? That's not healthy. You should have something. How about some tea? It's settled. He went from desk to desk, clapping people on the shoulder. Some who hadn't planned on drinking anything found themselves roped into an order by his righteous lecturing. He had the easy confidence of a bar owner greeting his regulars, not a timid intern on his first day. After making a full round, Leo realized he'd asked so many people that he couldn't remember all the orders. So, he took out his little notebook and had everyone write down their names and what they wanted. The Sterling employees, still slightly bewildered, took the notebook and dutifully wrote down their requests. As they did, they couldn't help but notice the preceding pages were already filled with names. Well, damn. Is this what this intern used to do for a living? No wonder he's so good at it. In a matter of minutes, a long list of new names and drink orders filled the pages of his notebook. When it was returned to him, Leo nodded in satisfaction. All right, everyone, just a moment. Then he marched off to the break room. Once there, he consulted his list and got to work. 6 coffees, 3 black teas, 2 bottles of water, 3 sodas. Finally, he returned, one hand holding a bag full of drinks and the other balancing a tray. He was a conspicuous sight. Passing employees did double takes. What the hell? Did someone just raid the break room? As he passed the elevators on his way back from B Wing, one of the cars came down from an upper floor, stopping on 57 for a Sterling employee who was heading down. The doors opened, revealing 2 Happy Nest employees who were also on their way out. The 2 were chatting casually when they caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in the hallway, carrying a load of drinks and zipping past. They both paused. Hey, did that guy who just passed look familiar to you? Kind of looked like Mr. Wallace. No way. This is the 57th floor, Sterling's territory. What would Mr. Wallace be doing here? You're right. We must have seen wrong. They fell silent as the Sterling employee stepped into the elevator. The Sterling employee looked at the 2 of them and asked curiously, You guys came down from upstairs? Are you from Happy Nest? The 2 Happy Nest employees exchanged a look and, in perfect unison, shook their heads. Nope. We're from the Park Hyatt on the 77th floor. You should come stay with us sometime. Here's our card. Without missing a beat, one of them handed over a business card. It was, unbelievably, a real Park Hyatt front desk card. Who knows where they got it? When out and about, keep a low profile. Rule number 1 of the Happy Nest Handbook. The soldiers trained by the great Mr. Wallace were professionals when it came to aliases. Back on the 57th floor, Leo returned to the cubicle area with his haul of drinks. All right, everyone, claim your orders. Don't take the wrong one. No need to rush. There's enough for everyone. He had the air of a seasoned pro. Just then, Evelyn Vance walked by. She had been worried about him, wondering how the new intern was getting along, and if he was having trouble interacting with the veteran employees. Then she saw the scene. She was stunned, then couldn't help but smile. Well, damn, he's already one of the gang. Her worries assuaged, she called out to Leo, We're having lunch together later. I'll introduce you to some of the other new colleagues. Then she turned and went back to her work. Leo, meanwhile, continued to shine in his role as an intern. Over the course of the morning, he made 4 or 5 trips to the break room. He even popped into a few supervisors' offices to ask if they needed anything to drink. Word quickly spread through the nearby office area and among the lower-level managers. We've got a new kid in the department. He's got a lot of drive. At the same time, up on the 61st floor, a strange rumor was circulating among the Happy Nest employees. There's a guy on the 57th floor who looks a lot like Mr. Wallace. I saw him too when I took the elevator down. I couldn't see him clearly. He was just zipping back and forth carrying a bunch of drinks. David Chung, working at his desk in the CEO's office, heard the rumor and chuckled. The 57th floor? That's Sterling's operations division, isn't it? They must have been mistaken. Leo went to work at his girlfriend's company. After being a hands-off boss at Happy Nest and Mako Entertainment for so long, it was actually kind of nice to play the role of a busy intern for a change. Leo spent the entire morning doing nothing but fetching drinks. But even a simple task like that, he did with the flair of a wholesale distributor, hauling round after round of beverages from the break room. The employees in his section, plied with his enthusiastic offers, ended up ordering multiple drinks they didn't even want, drinking themselves bloated and making several trips to the restroom. The logistics staff in charge of stocking the break room were baffled. Why was the consumption of beverages so high this morning? As for Leo, his gratitude journal was now filled with pages of names of Sterling employees. He had, in his own subtle way, compiled a roster of his girlfriend's company, getting a preliminary feel for the staff. This information could prove useful later. There was just one problem. Looking at his notebook, he saw that some of the employees had been careless, writing their names on the first few pages, mixed in with the names of people he had previously recorded as people to be repaid. This was a mess. Leo thought for a moment, then shrugged. It didn't matter. He didn't mind adding a few more names to the list. He'd just repay them all at the same time. After a busy morning, things finally quieted down around noon. The employees in the nearby cubicles were all waterlogged and had no energy to order any more drinks. Leo finally had some downtime. He remembered to pull out his phone and send a text to his girlfriend. Claire's reply came quickly. She was mostly done with her morning tasks and wanted him to come over to Operations Division 3 to see her. Leo felt it was a bit inappropriate. A new intern meeting with a prestigious Miss Sterling in front of everyone would be too conspicuous and hard to explain. But Claire sent another message. Don't worry. Your wife has a plan. It was followed by a beckoning finger emoji. Pure alpha female allure. Since his girlfriend had said so, Leo trusted her and did as he was told. He got up from his desk and headed towards the Division 3 office area. It didn't take long to get there. The layout was similar to the other divisions, but the employees here seemed to have a much more vibrant energy. They sat ramrod straight at their desks, completely immersed in their work. Some of the male employees even looked like they had just styled their hair with gel, occasionally sneaking a peek in a mirror and nodding with self-satisfaction. Leo understood. With the great Miss Sterling joining their division, these guys all felt they had a chance to impress her. They were like peacocks, desperate to display their most brilliant plumage. Leo looked at the flock of peacocks and decided to let it go. They were his girlfriend's employees, after all. He was a bigger man than that. The next second, one of the most ostentatiously styled peacocks shot Leo a sideways glance. You're the new intern, right? I'm thirsty. Go get me a glass of water. His tone was condescending. Leo looked at him, nodded, and kindly offered his notebook. Sure, just write your name down first. If a man was determined to dig his own grave, he couldn't stop him. The man was taken aback by the notebook. He grumbled, "What's with the signature for a glass of water?" but took the notebook and scrawled his name across a blank page. He wrote it so large it took up the entire sheet. He was practically begging for it. Just as Leo was putting his notebook away, he heard a wave of hushed gasps and excited whispers from the surrounding cubicles. He looked up. Accompanied by the rhythmic click of high heels, a familiar figure emerged from the management office corridor. A long black coat couldn't hide her tall, slender figure. Her cool, stunning beauty was enough to make the employees hold their breath. The aura of cold authority she exuded made it hard for anyone to even breathe too loudly. The great Miss Sterling, the new marketing team supervisor of Operations Division 3. Though she only held a lower to mid-level management title, her presence in the open office seemed to give her effortless command of the entire space. As her cool gaze swept over them, the employees didn't dare to meet her eyes. Only one handsome young man unabashedly admired the long legs beneath his girlfriend's coat. The thin black stockings outlined her perfectly toned calves, an alluring curve. Damn, those are some nice legs. As if sensing his brazen stare, Claire's gaze found him. She zeroed in on the clueless new intern. Her eyes narrowed, and her voice seemed to gain an extra layer of frost. Are you the new intern? Leo, as if snapping out of trance, nodded honestly. Oh yes, I am. As he answered, he didn't forget to take another good look at her beautiful legs. The corner of Claire's mouth twitched. She almost broke into a smile. But to everyone else, it looked like Miss Sterling was on the verge of anger. They held their breath, their gazes towards the unlucky intern, now filled with pity. Sure enough, under the watchful eyes of the entire department, Miss Sterling's expression grew colder, her tone even more chilling. You, come with me. Without waiting for a reply, she turned and walked back towards her office. Leo obediently followed. The employees left behind couldn't help but cast envious glances. To be summoned to Miss Sterling's office. What had this intern done to deserve such an honor? But then, their envy turned to glee. The kid had clearly offended Miss Sterling. With her famously cold and stern demeanor, he was in for a serious lecture. He deserved it. Leo followed his girlfriend into the office. As soon as they were inside, he heard Supervisor Sterling's cold command. Close the door. Leo, saying "oh," casually shut the door. The moment he turned around, he was met with a rush of fragrant air. A slender, pale hand slammed onto the office door next to his head. A classic wall slam. In her 3-inch heels, Claire was nearly as tall as her boyfriend, their eyes almost level. She leaned in close, her breath fragrant and hot, brushing against his ear as the future president of Sterling Holdings, in full boss mode, whispered, "Did you miss me?" At that moment, the first thought that popped into intern Leo's head was, well, damn. Error. Today was the perfect opportunity to try out one of the classic scenes for herself. Usually, it was the male lead pinning the female lead against a wall. In her case, with the genders reversed, it became the domineering female boss cornering the new male intern. It felt pretty good. She'd have to do it again sometime. Of course, besides the playful wall slam to live out a novel fantasy, they couldn't actually do anything in the office. The things that were too spicy were redacted for decency's sake. Besides, the wall facing the hallway was made of frosted glass. While you couldn't see details, you could make out the silhouettes inside. The wall slam had been perfectly executed in a blind spot, but any more movement would be visible to anyone passing by. The sight would probably give the entire division a heart attack. Both Leo and Claire knew their limits. After a brief, intimate moment, they separated and sat down at the desk. Claire, acting as if nothing had happened, took out a compact mirror and carefully reapplied her lipstick. "How was your morning? Getting used to being an intern?" Leo took a wet wipe from his girlfriend and casually wiped a lipstick smudge from his face. "It was fine. Got a lot of water for people. Everyone here is very thirsty." Claire leaned over the desk, gently turning his head to and fro as she used another wipe to clean a faint lipstick mark from his neck. Hearing his words, she paused, then couldn't help but laugh. "I heard people gossiping that the break room was raided. So that was you." As expected, she didn't need to worry about her lovable idiot. He could thrive anywhere. Still, she didn't forget to remind him, "You're new. You don't know the workflow or the rules here yet. Just keep your head down, learn, and watch. Don't cause any trouble." She knew her boyfriend all too well. He was a magnet for trouble. He himself would probably be fine, but she was worried he'd stir up some mess for the company. Leo looked indignant. "Of course not. Am I that kind of person?" He was met with his girlfriend's teasing, knowing gaze. He scratched his head. "All right, I'll try not to cause trouble." Claire nodded, satisfied. Then she remembered something. "By the way, you should have a senior employee assigned to mentor you one-on-one. You need to listen to them." Leo thought of Evelyn Vance. Although she seemed to be limping for some reason and had a grudge against him at first, she had been a responsible and good mentor. He nodded. "Yeah, my mentor is great." Changing the subject, Leo asked about his girlfriend's morning. "How about you? Everything goes smoothly?" Claire nodded with a smile. "It was fine. I didn't do much, just picked an office and met the management team from Division 3. Everyone was very polite. I spent the rest of the time in my office looking at employee files. I need to start picking people for my team." As she spoke, she waved a thick stack of documents at him. Leo offered a suggestion. "Why don't you pick me?" The main reason he had joined Sterling was to help his girlfriend with her work. If he were on her team, it would be much more convenient. But Claire shook her head. "It's against the rules. Team members have to be full-time employees. Interns can only be called on for occasional help. Besides, I'm part of Division 3 now, so I have to prioritize choosing people from this division." Leo looked disappointed. "Oh, I see." Seeing his expression, Claire couldn't help but smile. "All right, you just be a good little intern for now, and let me corner you every once in a while." As she spoke, she stretched her long leg onto the desk, her heeled foot gently tapping his calf in a gesture of comfort. Leo looked righteous. "What are you saying? I'm a professional intern. I don't get involved in improper relationships with my superiors." Despite his words, his hand darted out and grabbed her ankle, giving it a gentle squeeze. Claire let out a small yelp and quickly pulled her leg back, blushing as she shot him a look. "You perv. Don't worry, I've already got someone in mind for my team." As she said this, a knowing smile appeared on her face. She had spent the morning looking through personnel files. The person she was looking for, she had found her. "All right, get out of here," a woman's cold, authoritative voice reprimanded from within the marketing supervisor's office. "And don't let me catch you again." The office door opened, and the new intern stumbled out, bowing and scraping. "Yes, I promise it won't happen again." Passing employees from Division 3 saw this, and, Watching Leo's dejected figure walk away, couldn't help but feel a sense of smug satisfaction. Yep, he got chewed out. He offended Miss Sterling. Life is going to be tough for that intern from now on. Returning for Division 3, Leo's steps became light and cheerful again. It was almost lunchtime. His girlfriend was having lunch with the division manager and other executives. That was fine. He had plans to. Back in the open office area, he had just sat down at his desk when the familiar click of heels approached. Evelyn Vance walked up, as brisk and capable as ever. She tapped on his cubicle wall. Let's go. I'm taking you to lunch. The 6th floor of the East Bay Global Financial Center housed the employee cafeteria. Hundreds of restaurants had competed for a spot, and now nearly 100 stalls offered a wide variety of food for the building's employees. There were even exclusive private dining rooms for company executives, staffed by Michelin-starred chefs. Most of the employees from the entire building eat here in the main cafeteria, Evelyn explained as they took the elevator down. If you're lucky, you might see some big shots from other companies. Like I told you, a lot of people in our division are fans of the Happy Nest CSO. They come to the cafeteria early every day, just hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Standing beside her, the Happy Nest CSO nodded politely. Oh, that's cool. The Sterling Operations Division let out for lunch relatively early, but by the time they took the elevator down to the 6th floor and walked into the public cafeteria, the place was already a sea of people, buzzing with noise. The sight made Leo let out an impressed whistle. Wow, so many people. Before he could finish, Evelyn grabbed his wrist. No time for sightseeing. If we wait any longer, all the good food will be gone. Follow me and don't let go. The next second, before Leo could even react, he was pulled into the throng. Now he got to witness Evelyn's true power as a corporate warrior. Dressed in professional attire and high heels that were not made for running, she dragged him through the crowd like she was parting the Red Sea. With her expert knowledge of the cafeteria's layout and the natural advantage of being a beautiful woman, she wove through the masses, calling out, excuse me, without a hint of apology, leading him expertly between the food stalls. Here, she snagged the last 3 fried chicken legs. There, she snatched a plate of braised eggplant right from under the noses of several female lawyers from the 37th floor. Then, she flashed a dazzling smile at a few balding, 26-year-old programmers from a tech company on the 63rd floor. The programmers, single for all 26 years of their lives, were so mesmerized that they dazedly handed over the 2 plates of fried fish they had just gotten. Leo felt a little embarrassed. Is this really okay? Evelyn, looking like a victorious general, declared, there's nothing wrong with it. The cafeteria is a battlefield. If you're polite in here, you'll never get a hot meal. After giving her intern a quick lesson, General Vance spotted a new target. Stall 43 has braised pork belly today. Charge. She pulled Leo and plunged back into the fray. Leo was in awe. He thought of Lily Lou, the campus beauty who could never seem to get hot food. The difference between people was truly vast. This beautiful Miss Vance was the complete opposite. With her skills, she'd never go hungry. After getting their food, Evelyn took Leo to pay, swiping her own meal card. It's your first day, so this one's on me. The formidable General Vance had reverted to her role as a kind senior colleague. Leo was sincerely impressed. You're the boss. He then glanced back towards the food stalls. If you're paying, maybe I should go get some more. A light slap on the back of his head cut him off. Don't be greedy. My usual lunch budget is $13. Treating you is already an exception. They paid and looked for a table. Evelyn was still in her element. It seemed someone had saved them a spot. At a table not far away, a person was waving at them. Evelyn, over here. Evelyn led Leo over to the table. 2 men and 2 women were already seated. They were all colleagues from Sterling who had started around the same time as Evelyn and were close friends. After they sat down, Evelyn introduced Leo. The 2 women were quite interested in him. You're only a sophomore and you're already interning at Sterling? You must be something special, kiddo. The 2 men, upon hearing that Leo was a Berkeley student, had a look of understanding. Oh, Berkeley. That explains it. They don't usually take students from regular universities this early. One of the women's interest was piqued. By the way, I heard the Miss Sterling who started today is also from Berkeley, right? That makes you 2 alumni. Have you seen her around campus? Leo answered without batting an eye. I've heard of her. Don't know her. This was met with a chorus of disappointed sighs and lectures. What a waste. An alumni connection is so useful in the workplace. If you could get on good terms with Miss Sterling, you'd be set for life in our division. The conversation continued to revolve around the newly arrived Miss Sterling. The short-haired woman's eyes lit up. I heard Miss Sterling is in Division 3 as a marketing team supervisor. She's already requested employee files to start building her team. To be chosen by the future heir of Sterling Holdings would mean becoming part of her core team. The future would be limitless. The young employees at the table all looked wistful. One of the men daydreamed aloud. If I were on Miss Sterling's team, working with her every day, maybe I could catch her eye and marry into the family. Then I'd never have to work again. This earned him a few playful scoffs from the women at the table. Leo, the new intern, looked at his senior colleague with admiration for his courage and ambition. He immediately asked for the man's name, took out his notebook, wrote it down, and even drew a circle around it for emphasis. After the joking died down, Evelyn waved her hand. It's just a nice thought. Miss Sterling will definitely be picking people from her own division, and they'll all be experienced veterans. Newbies like us who've been here less than a year don't stand a chance. After lunch, they returned to the office. Perhaps because Leo had thoroughly hydrated everyone in his section that morning, no one asked him to fetch drinks in the afternoon. He heard that the logistics department had even stationed someone in the break room, armed with a broom and looking around suspiciously, as if there had been a robbery. So, Leo had a pretty relaxing afternoon. He chatted with the employees in the neighboring cubicles, and finding that they shared common interests in websites and games, he enthusiastically recommended Happy Nest, Blockhead Figures, and the Battle Through the Heavens browser game. He actually managed to pique the interest of quite a few people. Happy Nest, I know that one. This Battle Through the Heavens game looks pretty fun. What are Blockhead Figures? Oh, they're cute. Are they expensive? If not, I'll get a couple for my desk. By the time evening rolled around, he had successfully converted a whole group of people. It was a fruitful day. When Evelyn came to find him, she heard about his afternoon activities and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Are you here to be an intern or a salesman? Does Happy Nest and that toy company pay you a commission or something? You're so dedicated. After scolding him for a moment, Evelyn remembered something and casually added, All right, pack up when we're done. You're coming home with me. Leo blinked. Question mark. What was that? What kind of suggestive remark was that? Leo Hammer Wallace, intern, on his first day at Sterling Holdings. He never expected to hear such a predatory offer. Leo instinctively took 2 steps back, putting a cautious distance between himself and Evelyn Vance before taking another look at the woman who was quickly earning the nickname the General in his head. Evelyn, I'm a respectable intern, he said. I refuse to get involved in any kind of ambiguous relationship with my superior. The line sounded familiar. He was pretty sure he'd said it just that morning. Of course, Bertha Sue was the exception. She was the one and only designated person for ambiguity. But their version of ambiguous was just kissing and leg squeezing in the office. This General Vance in front of him was on a whole other level of wild. On his very first day, she was already trying to take a new intern home with her. If Bertha Sue found out about this, wouldn't she tear this woman limb from limb? Seeing Leo's reaction, Evelyn blinked in confusion. Then, hearing his words, she finally understood and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of nonsense are you thinking about? I meant, take you back to the Sterling Holdings employee housing. As the leading enterprise in East Bay and the entire Southern Province, Sterling Holdings employee benefits were also top of the line. They offered subsidies for both meals and housing. Full-time employees received a $30 daily meal allowance. For housing, there were dedicated corporate apartments. The location's right in the city, in the waterfront district, Evelyn explained. It's about 6 stops on the metro, a 25 to 30-minute commute. It's not super close, she admitted, but finding a place with that kind of commute time in the city is already a great deal. And the quality of the apartments is pretty good. With the company's subsidy, rent is only $800 a month. If you try to rent a place of the same quality on your own, you'd be looking at $1,500 to $2,000, and you'd probably have to get a roommate. Anyway, I moved in right after I was hired. It's been great. It's convenient for getting to work, and I've never been late. At this proud statement, Evelyn puffed out her chest with a hint of smugness. A moment later, someone kindly reminded her, You were late today, Evelyn. Evelyn. She almost saw red again. Her size 7 foot nearly flew towards the damn intern's face once more. And whose fault was that? You tell me, whose fault was that? Mentally chanting murder is illegal, and you can't just beat up the intern 100 times. Evelyn took a deep breath to compose herself. Anyway, she continued, I heard from HR earlier. You're an out-of-town student, and the campus is way out in the suburbs. It would be a huge pain to keep living in the dorms while working here. So I asked around for you. Interns can apply for corporate housing too. Otherwise, I know it's tough for a student like you to afford rent in the city. Leo nodded, the realization dawning on him. That's true. He hadn't really thought this part through. Now that the General mentioned it, commuting from the old Berkeley campus to Sterling Holdings would take at least 40 minutes one way. During rush hour, that time would probably double. It was definitely inconvenient. Of course, with his current financial situation, renting wasn't an issue. He could easily buy a condo or two near the office. But if Sterling Holdings offered employee housing, that was a fantastic perk. $800 was a steal. Thrifty Leo Hammer never passed up a good deal. But he couldn't make this decision alone. Leo thought for a moment, then looked up at Evelyn. "I have to talk it over with my girlfriend." Evelyn paused, then burst out laughing. "Well, look at you. I wouldn't have guessed you were so whipped." Leo shot back with righteous indignation. "I am not. My status at home is terrifyingly high." As he spoke, he pulled out his phone and, without a change in expression, began typing a text to his wife. "To my esteemed wife, I have a matter to request your permission on." He quickly explained the situation in the text. A reply came back from his wife almost instantly. Approved. The idea of living in corporate housing seemed to hold a certain novelty and excitement for Bertha Sue. She was used to living in mansions and luxury penthouses, from a single slaughterhouse to her place at the Concord or the Sterling family estate. This was a rare opportunity to commute with her boyfriend and squeeze into a small employee apartment together. An experience like that was not to be missed. However, Claire still had another meeting with the division's senior management, so the task of checking out the apartment fell to Leo. He put away his phone. Looking up at Evelyn, he once again declared with righteous indignation, "All right. My wife said she'll listen to whatever I decide." Evelyn's lip twitched. "I believe you if your last text reply wasn't yes, ma'am." At 5:30 in the evening, it was quitting time. The employees of the Sterling Holdings division clocked out, right on schedule. Leo quickly packed up his desk, slipped his gratitude journal into his backpack, and followed Evelyn out of the company. They headed for the elevators. It was the time when employees from all the companies in the Global Financial Center were heading home. The elevator was a bit crowded, but Leo's luck held out. He didn't run into any of his own Happy Nest employees on their way out. The elevator descended to the ground floor. Evelyn led Leo to the nearby metro station entrance, and they got on another train. It was rush hour. The subway car was packed to the gills, a roiling sea of bodies. Evelyn and Leo barely managed to squeeze inside before several more passengers shoved their way in just as the doors were closing, pushing everyone further into the car amidst a chorus of grumbles and complaints. Evelyn was being crushed and was having trouble breathing. Seeing this, Leo used his shoulders to carve out a little space, helping her find a spot to stand in the corner by the bench seats near the door. Evelyn could finally catch her breath. She looked up and saw Leo, who had created this small pocket of safety for her. His handsome, slender figure, in the middle of this packed, chaotic crowd, suddenly seemed tall, broad, and reassuring. The sight left Evelyn feeling a little dazed. Leo noticed her staring. "What are you looking at, Evelyn?" She snapped back to reality, unable to stop a small smile from forming. She shook her head. "Nothing." Then, as if a thought struck her, she asked curiously, "How long have you and your girlfriend been together? How did you meet?" Leo paused for a second, then smiled. "We just passed our 1-year mark. But as for how we met, feels like it was in a past life." Evelyn didn't take Leo's comment too seriously. "A past life, huh? You're just a kid, but you talk like an old man." Still, her curiosity about Leo's girlfriend was piqued. She pried a little more and learned that they were high school and college classmates, which made her sigh with a mix of envy and nostalgia. "That's so wonderful. Love in the ivory tower is the simplest and purest kind. You have to cherish it. Once you graduate and officially enter the real world, dating becomes so much more complicated." After a moment of reflection, Evelyn shook it off and turned back to Leo with a playful grin. "So, is your girlfriend pretty? How does she compare to your big sister here?" Leo glanced at Evelyn. She was 22 or 23, having just shed the last traces of collegiate innocence and gained the sharp, mature confidence of a professional. She was a perfect blend of the two, confident and radiant like a flower in full bloom. Her looks and charisma were definitely top tier. Unfortunately, his girlfriend's tag was invincible. Leo didn't say a word, but Evelyn could tell from his expression that he wasn't thinking anything good. She pouted in mock anger. "You little punk, you haven't seen the world. I was the campus queen back in college, you know, and I've got a whole legion of secret and not-so-secret admirers here at Sterling. And you have the nerve to look unimpressed." She wasn't wrong, but unfortunately, she was talking to Leo Hammer Wallace, a man for whom campus beauties were practically a dime a dozen. Still, unimpressed was a bit harsh. Leo thought for a moment and decided to throw her a bone. "Evelyn, your speed at grabbing the hot dishes in the cafeteria is pretty damn impressive. The highest possible praise from a straight-laced guy. An evaluation of the utmost honor. Unfortunately, Evelyn didn't know the context. The compliment nearly made her roll her eyes into the back of her head. Oh well, thank you so much. The former campus queen of East Bay Foreign Language University, and her only recognized virtue was being fast in the lunch line. What kind of virtue was that? Was there really someone out there, so useless they couldn't even get a hot meal? The metro arrived at the station. It stopped at Riverside Station, and the doors slid open. Passengers poured out like a flood. Their conversation was cut short. Evelyn's spirits lifted. We're here. Let's go. She grabbed Leo by the wrist, and, on her high heels, carved a bloody path through the crowded car toward the exit, fighting with the desperation of someone who had lost something precious that very morning. After leaving the station, a 5-minute walk brought them to a large residential complex. Rainbow Terrace. Phase 2. Leo looked up at the sign above the entrance. It seemed familiar. In his past life, Rainbow Terrace had expanded all the way to a 7th or 8th phase. By then, the price per square foot had soared to over $1,000. Not like now. Phase 2, built around 2005, had resale prices of just over 200 square foot. If he bought 7 or 8 units right now, it would be a pretty decent investment. As Leo was calculating, Evelyn noticed him staring at the entrance and smiled. The environment here is great. Good location, solid construction. I heard they're starting Phase 3 in July. A lot of my colleagues from our division and other departments live here. Many of them are saving up to buy a place here someday. But for a newcomer like me, the prices are still way too high. I'll have to work for years to save up enough. Leo nodded. You're right to try and buy a place soon. The prices will only go up. This was the prescient advantage of a reincarnator, a piece of well-intentioned advice. Evelyn just laughed it off. What do you, a little kid, know about real estate? But hey, there are a lot of rich people buying property here. I heard about a group that came for a tour not long ago, and one guy bought several units on the spot. I think his name was something with a lot of gold in it. He bought by the floor. Can you believe it? Rich people are terrifying. Evelyn casually shared the gossip with Leo. When she didn't get a response, she looked over at him, puzzled. What's wrong? Did I scare you? Leo. His pupils quaked slightly. It's nothing, he said. I thought I heard a familiar name. Rainbow Terrace Phase 2 had 13 buildings. Sterling Holdings corporate housing was primarily in buildings 11 through 13. They were a bit farther from the main gate, but the inner location made them more quiet and peaceful. Evelyn led Leo to Building 11. She swiped her key card to enter the lobby, and, as they rode the elevator up, she explained, the small units here are mostly between 500 and 600 square feet. 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, 1 living room. The layout is pretty standard. Depending on your employee level, the company provides a housing subsidy of $1,000 to $2,500. Some people who want to save money opt for the even smaller units that landlords have partitioned off. They're only 200 or 300 square feet, but it's enough for one person. After the subsidy, you only pay $300 to $500 out of pocket, and that includes utilities. If you're living alone, one of those should be enough. She paused, then glanced at Leo. Of course, if you're planning on living with your girlfriend. A bigger one would be better. Leo's expression didn't change. It's fine. Let's look at both. So, with Evelyn as his guide, Leo toured several different employee apartments on various floors. It was just as she'd said. The partition studio units were just over 200 square feet. They were clean and well-equipped, but while fine for one person, they'd be cramped for 2. The beds were all twin-sized. That was 2 full sizes smaller than the king-sized friendship vibrating bed at the LNS house. If he and Bertha Sue were going to live here, it would be a bit inconvenient for certain activities. Don't get the wrong idea. He meant sleeping, of course. Leo took a picture and sent it to Claire. A moment later, a text from Bertha Sue came back. Her review was concise. Beds too small. Inconvenient. Truly a matched pair. They even focused on the exact same details. Leo then asked Evelyn to show him one of the standard 500 to 600 square foot units. Evelyn didn't have a key to any empty ones of that size herself. She thought for a moment and made a decision. Okay, my place is in this building too. You can come see my apartment. In front of apartment 1203, Evelyn used her key to unlock the door and pushed it open. Slippers are in the cabinet, she called over her shoulder. They might be a bit small, but you can make do. No problem, Leo replied casually, following her inside. As he changed his shoes, his eyes swept across the room. The layout was bright and open, simple and clean, but with the distinct traces of a woman's touch. There were many delicate, small decorations and furniture that had likely been carefully selected. They might not have been expensive, but they gave the small, 500 square foot apartment a sense of elegance and warmth. After changing into her own slippers, Evelyn turned to see Leo looking around. She smiled and said casually, "You're the first guy I've ever had in my apartment." Leo froze for a second. Then he looked at Evelyn with concern. "You've been single this whole time? Evelyn, you're not getting any younger. You should really find someone." "Evelyn?" Question mark. Her fists clenched again. Evelyn's apartment was about 500 square feet. The layout was practical. A full one-bedroom, one living room, one bathroom setup, plus a small study. The decor was elegant and cozy, a clear testament to the owner's meticulous arrangement and daily care. Wearing slippers, Leo wandered through the small apartment. He went over to the kitchen. The pots, pans, and various seasonings were arranged neatly on the counter, but they showed signs of use. The hostess clearly cooked for herself often. Leo sniffed the air. He caught the faint, lingering scent of something sweet, like pastries. His eyes instinctively scanned the room and landed on a small baking oven sitting on a simple rack next to the stove. Evelyn came over, explaining with a smile, "Eating out is too expensive, so I usually just make something myself at home. I've recently gotten into baking, making cookies and little snacks. It's a fun hobby." As she spoke, Evelyn opened the fridge and took out a small sealed bag of leftover cookies, offering them to Leo. "Want to try my handiwork?" Leo eyed the cookies with suspicion. He had a genuine case of PTSD. The sight of homemade baked goods instinctively made his stomach churn. But he took one and tried it anyway. It was sweet and crispy on the first bite. Tasted pretty good. Evelyn watched his expression and asked with a smile, "How is it? Not bad, right?" Leo chewed a few times, swallowed the cookie, and nodded in satisfaction. "It's good," he thought for a moment, then added with righteous conviction, "but not quite as good as my wife's." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, a little surprised. "Oh, your girlfriend likes to bake too? Maybe we can exchange notes sometime." After touring the living room and kitchen, it wasn't appropriate to go into the hostess's bedroom. Leo just peeked in from the doorway. It was fine. The bedroom was spacious. Evelyn only had a full-size bed, but he could definitely fit a king-size one in there when he moved in. Evelyn couldn't help but laugh. "What do you need such a huge bed for? To roll around on by yourself?" Leo corrected her. "You can also have two people rolling around on it." He then glanced at the general. "All right, a single person probably wouldn't understand." Evelyn, her fists clenched. "Again, you little brat, I just sharpened my kitchen knife. Don't make me come after you with it." Finally, they came to the study. Evelyn pushed the door open and led Leo inside. The room was small, maybe 70 or 80 square feet, but it had a south-facing window. The desk was positioned right in front of it, and looking out past the towering buildings, you could just make out a corner of the East Bay waterfront. Evelyn explained with a smile, "Normally, this floor plan doesn't include a study. My unit costs $300 more than others of the same type, and this is why. Because you can see a little piece of the waterfront. It's the reason I was willing to spend a bit more to rent this place." As she spoke, Evelyn leaned against the desk, turning slightly to gaze out the window. The sky was beginning to darken. In the distance, the city lights of East Bay were starting to flicker on, one by one. The neon glow of the waterfront, though far away, reflected in the beautiful woman's eyes, making them shine like clear water. "Even though you can only see a little bit," she said softly, "it's a source of motivation for me. That's the most prosperous view in East Bay, and it inspires me to work hard every day. Maybe one day, through my own efforts, I can carve out a place for myself in this magnificent city." It was her most sincere hope, her simplest dream. Light from a neighboring building spilled through the window, falling on Evelyn's figure, seeming to coat the beautiful, hard-working young woman in a soft, gentle glow that was both lovely and moving. Leo seemed to be staring, lost in thought. Sensing his gaze, Evelyn turned to look at him, casually tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with a smile. "What are you looking at?" Spacing out again, Leo snapped back to reality and honestly pointed behind her. "Evelyn, you've got a stocking hanging on your bookshelf." Evelyn froze. She whipped her head around. Then, horrified, she scrambled to grab the stocking she'd apparently taken off and forgotten to put away, hastily hiding it. You brat. Who told you to look at that? It's not like I'm usually this messy. This was an accident. An accident, you understand? If you tell anyone at the office about this, you're dead meat." After seeing the corporate housing, Leo had pretty much made his decision. He'd rent a unit with the same layout as Evelyn's. Evelyn walked him out of her apartment. "If you want one like mine, the employee subsidy won't cover it all. You'll have to pay a bit more out of pocket. No rush, though. Go home and think it over before you decide." Leo nodded. "Yeah, the money's not an issue." Evelyn rolled her eyes. "What, are you some rich kid? It's not easy for your parents to earn money. Now that you're out in the real world, you need to be more frugal. She lectured him for a few more moments with the air of a seasoned senior. Then, she seemed to remember something. But there should be a corner unit on my floor with this layout that's still empty. If you rent it, we can be neighbors. It'll be convenient for me to look out for you if you need anything. And hey, if your little girlfriend comes over, I can meet her too. She added the last part as a casual joke. Leo thought about it, then shook his head. It's probably better if you don't meet. Evelyn laughed. Why? Is your girlfriend a monster? Afraid she'll scare me? Leo looked at the general. Monster? No, not really. But meeting her would definitely scare the hell out of this woman. Having seen the apartment, Leo thanked Evelyn and left. He took the elevator down and strolled casually out of the complex. Just as he reached the main gate of Rainbow Terrace Phase 2, a familiar black Maybach suddenly pulled up, braking smoothly right in front of him. May, upright arrow go. The window rolled down, revealing the impossibly beautiful face of the female driver. She looked at Leo, the corner of her mouth curving up. Hey, handsome, need a ride? Leo Hammer stood his ground righteously. My mom told me not to get in cars with strangers. The driver casually produced a $10 bill, waving it at him with a bewitching smile. Big sister has money, you know. Leo yanked open the passenger door and hopped in. Well, in that case. He shut the door and immediately leaned over to steal a kiss from his wife. He'd spent the whole day at the Sterling division, and aside from a few brief moments of affection in Claire's office, they'd had to maintain their distance, playing the roles of supervisor and intern, pretending not to know each other. It had been torture. Now, back in the Maybach, they finally had a safe, private space where they could do whatever they wanted. Leo caught himself just in time. Wait, let's drive first. The kiss had gotten so intense that the driver's seat was about to recline. They were, after all, right at the main entrance of the Rainbow Terrace complex. Plenty of Sterling employees were heading home right now. People were coming and going. Although the Maybach's windows were tinted, plenty of Sterling employees recognized the license plate. It was one thing for them to see their junior boss's car parked outside the employee housing complex. It would be quite another if they saw the car start to vibrate strangely. Reminded by her boyfriend, Claire came to her senses, her face flushing with a hint of embarrassment. They weren't usually like this, even after all this time. It was probably because they'd spent all day pretending to be supervisor and subordinate. Returning to their roles as a couple felt strangely new and exciting. She'd lost her composure. Taking a shallow breath, she quickly regained her cool demeanor. Right, let's go. The engine hummed to life. The Maybach started moving slowly, then accelerated away. It was rush hour, and the traffic on the way back to the LNS house was heavy. While waiting at a red light, Claire asked Leo about the apartment viewing. She'd been held up in a meeting with other senior managers and hadn't been able to go herself, so Bertha Sue was now very invested in the details. Leo briefly described the rental conditions and showed her the photos he'd taken of the living room and kitchen in Evelyn's apartment. After seeing the pictures, Claire was very satisfied and made an executive decision on the spot. Perfect. We'll rent that floor plan. She was incredibly decisive. Leo couldn't help but smile. You've already decided? You don't want to look at any others? It's a small unit, less than 500 square feet. After you account for shared space, the actual living area is probably closer to 400. He had asked Evelyn earlier. Besides the basic small units, Rainbow Terrace Phase 2 also had 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, ranging from 800 to 1,300 square feet, and even a massive 1,800 square foot model where some of the company's top executives lived. But when he mentioned this to his girlfriend, Claire shook her head without hesitation. No, I'm used to living in big places. This time, I want to live in a small one. It was true. As the esteemed daughter of the Sterling family, what kind of mansion or luxury villa hadn't she lived in? The LNS house was practically the smallest, cutest place she'd ever bought. In comparison, the experience of squeezing into a tiny 500 square foot rental with her boyfriend, living a simple life filled with the mundane but cozy details of daily chores, that was what she truly craved. However, as if remembering something, Claire turned to look at her boyfriend. Leo understood immediately. Don't worry, I checked the bedroom. It can fit a king-size bed. Claire's brow instantly relaxed. The young couple exchanged a look of perfect understanding and high-fived. Nice work. His first day at the Sterling division had mostly been about getting familiar with the work environment and being briefed on future tasks. For the next few days, both Leo and Claire took time off. They still had a few exams and assignments to finish up at school before the winter break officially started. Only then would they begin working full-time. The apartment rental was a done deal. The rest was easy. Claire simply called the division's director, Mr. Young, and informed him of their decision. The last remaining small unit in Building 11 of Rainbow Terrace was secured, and they could move in whenever they were ready. Mr. Young, however, was a bit stunned when he received the call. The small unit in Building 11? But that apartment is less than 500 square feet. Isn't that a bit too small for you, Miss Sterling? He had been enthusiastically trying to arrange a larger unit for her, even offering to give up his own top-floor penthouse in Building 11. But all he got in return was a cool, calm reply from the Sterling heiress. No need. My boyfriend and I have already discussed it. We want a small one. We'll be living there together. It'll be a nice, tight fit. The call ended, leaving Mr. Young frozen like a statue at his desk in the general manager's office. My boyfriend. Discussed it. Living there together. Every word sent a shiver down his spine. A nice, tight fit. What if they squeeze someone to death? Would he, Mr. Young, be held responsible? He glanced at a brand-new notebook on his desk, recalling the earnest instructions his chairman had given him. You need to be diligent about this, son. I want you to write down every single piece of intelligence related to my daughter and that boy, Leo. Bring it to me once a week. Every last detail, I want to see it all. Oh, and Mr. Zhou is very experienced with this sort of thing. He used to do a great job. If you're not sure how to proceed, you can ask him for advice. His thoughts snapped back to the present. Mr. Yang's eyes widened in horror. Record intelligence. How am I supposed to record this? The thought alone was giving him a migraine. Left with no choice, Mr. Yang made a decision. He would have to invite the chairman's most trusted confidant out for a meal. This was something he definitely needed to consult his senior about. Over the next few days, Leo and Claire returned to campus life, focusing on their final exams. The days flew by. After the last test was finished and the final paper submitted, the first semester of their sophomore year was officially over. Winter break had arrived. Students all over campus were packing their bags, ready to leave the dorms and enjoy their vacation. Leo temporarily closed the blockhead workshop on the commercial street by the East Gate. It would reopen at the start of the new semester. He gave his underclassmen employees their bonuses and sent them all home for the holidays. He told them to spread the word to their friends back at Northwood High to ensure a steady supply of cheap labor for the next incoming freshman class. For the residents of Room 205 and Room 520, the arrival of winter break meant one last get-together at the LNS house before everyone went their separate ways. This time, the whole crew was there. Lily Liu and Clark Sterling came. Wyatt Way and Anna came, too. During dinner, Wyatt seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood, devouring his food with gusto. Everyone looked at him, puzzled. What's Wyatt so happy about? Did something good happen? Anna gave him a suspicious look. What did the doctor say? Is there still hope? The Wei family heir downed a large bowl of rice and waved his hand magnanimously. You wouldn't understand. Clever as he was, he had finally found a way to escape his sea of suffering. Everyone was curious about Wyatt's good mood, but despite his near-giddy excitement, he remained tight-lipped, refusing to say a word. When pressed, he'd just shamelessly offer a lame excuse. It's nothing, I just heard Kevin's mom is having another baby. I'm happy for him. This earned him a collective eye roll. Another baby? At this rate, Kevin's family should have enough kids to populate a small town. Fine, don't tell us. The group around the dining table continued eating hot pot and chatting. When they heard that Claire and Leo would be interning at Sterling Holdings over the winter break, they were all amazed. Molly Tang, the romance novel aficionado, was especially thrilled, her eyes sparkling. Working at the same company? The female boss and the intern? Wow, I've read this plot in a novel. An office romance. All those scenes with kissing behind closed doors and pinning her against the wall, you have to do all of them. To this, the power couple righteously declared, What are you talking about? We're there to work seriously. We won't be getting into any of that nonsense. But the topic of an office romance was a fresh and exciting concept for the college students at the table. They chattered excitedly, their voices filled with curiosity and a hint of longing. Quinn Liu turned to Anna. Annie Cakes, you're working too. Have you developed any office romances? Any little flirtations with your colleagues? At that question, everyone's ears perked up. Nearby, a certain Wei family heir nearly choked on a sip of water, his ears also instinctively swiveling in Anna's direction. Anna paused, then answered with a calm expression. Of course not. I'm there to work seriously. I don't get into any of that nonsense. She paused for a beat, as if remembering something. A slight smile played on her lips as she nonchalantly cracked her knuckles, her long, fair fingers making a soft popping sound. At most, I get to stretch my legs a bit at work. Get some exercise in. Everyone was confused. Exercise? What did that mean? Did her company have a gym with a punching bag? Marco Shaw looked at Wyatt beside him, puzzled. Wyatt, what's wrong with you? You look like you're in pain. The conversation soon shifted back to the original topic, with Anna eagerly jumping in. So, Leo the pig is an intern at your company, sister-in-law? You'd better keep a close eye on him. That pig seems to have some kind of beauty-attracting aura. Don't let him accidentally attract any other pretty girls at your company. Spoken like a true sister, not hesitating for a second to throw her brother under the bus. Leo was indignant. Am I that kind of person? Stop trying to drive a wedge between me and your sister-in-law. Everyone else nodded in agreement. Leo definitely wouldn't do something like that. The bond between the power couple seemed indestructible. That fact was as certain as Leo's unwavering lack of game, solid as aerospace-grade alloy. But on the other hand, everyone turned to give Leo a sidelong glance. That beauty-attracting aura thing might have some truth to it. A guy with that much anti-game has some kind of super magnetism. Amidst the teasing, Claire was naturally unbothered. However, her best friend and sister-in-law's comment did remind her of something. She turned to Anna. By the way, Annie Cakes, didn't you say you wanted to come work for me? Maybe you should consider it. This was a genuine offer from Claire. In her past life, even before she met Leo, she and Anna had been the most in-sync partners at work. Now that she was back at Sterling Holdings, if she could have her closest and most capable friend by her side, many things would be twice as easy. The moment she said it, the rest of the group chimed in, thinking it was a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. The sister-in-law duo, fighting side by side. That sounds awesome. Annie Cakes, weren't you just complaining about all the overtime at your company? Saying you wanted to kill your boss? Well, now you can just fire your boss and work with Claire. Amidst the enthusiastic encouragement, Wyatt, sitting nearby, felt his throat go inexplicably dry. He just choked on water, and now he was subconsciously chugging from his glass again, his eyes darting towards Anna. Anna herself was taken aback. She had indeed said that before, and working with her sister-in-law was something she had once looked forward to. But now, her gaze unconsciously drifted to a certain way family air. For some reason, seeing him gulping down water and pretending to be nonchalant made her want to laugh. After a moment's thought, Anna waved her hand dismissively. I'll forget it. I'm actually doing pretty well at my current company. The boss, well, he's a bit of a pain in the ass, but we work well together. As she spoke, Anna subconsciously clenched her fist as if she was reminiscing about something with a hint of unfinished business. She concluded, I'm not thinking about switching jobs for now. Maybe later. The group was a little confused. But next to them, Wyatt inexplicably relaxed, his spirits lifting. Come on, let's drink, let's drink. Claire was a bit disappointed, but she didn't push it. Even without her best friend's help, she had another candidate from her past life in mind. This was the last gathering for the single slaughterhouse crew before winter break. It was January. The winter night air was cold, and small snowflakes drifted down from the sky. Inside the LNS house, after finishing the hot pot, the group moved to the living room sofas, gathering around the warm fireplace to continue drinking and chatting. The crew was now mostly paired up. Leo and Claire, Leon and Molly, Marco and Quinn Liu, and Lily Liu with Clark Sterling. 4 whole couples, plus Dylan, Jade, Wyatt, and Anna, the 4 singles. 8 against 4. The latter group felt like they were drowning in a sea of public displays of affection. Earlier, while talking about work, it came out that Clark was also set to start at Sterling Holdings. Since Claire was now the marketing team supervisor for Division 3, she decided to have her cousin come work for her. Clark was, of course, thrilled by the arrangement. He was now sitting next to Claire, diligently listening to her instructions and taking notes in a notebook. He even took a cookie that Claire offered him and, without hesitation, bit into it. His face changed instantly. He clenched his jaw, chewed with a grimace, and managed to swallow it down, all without interrupting his note-taking, though his handwriting was now visibly trembling. He couldn't help it. He was just that desperate to succeed. Seeing Clark's pained expression, Lily Liu felt a mixture of amusement and pity. She snatched the bag of cookies from Claire's hand, saving her boyfriend's life. The cookies wouldn't go to waste. She had plans to meet up with Yvonne Moreau in the city tomorrow. She could just bring them to her. Her department junior had a tolerance for punishment that was just as maxed out as her looks. With the 2 Sterlings busy talking shop, Lily sat down next to Leo and asked in a low voice, Are you really going to work at Sterling Holdings? When Leo nodded, Lily looked at him with a sense of wonder. As an intern, isn't that a bit of a waste of your talents? Of everyone present, she was the only one who knew his true identity as the CSO of Happy Nest. That's why the news was so unbelievable to her. The chief strategy officer of Happy Nest, the most mysterious and low-key new tycoon in the entire East Bay tech scene, working as a lowly intern at Sterling Holdings. No one would ever believe it if they heard. Leo just smiled. It's nothing. I'm just keeping Claire company. If she runs into any problems at work, I can help her out. He said it casually, but Lily nodded in agreement. After more than a year of knowing him, she had witnessed his capabilities more than once. If nothing else, his skill at playing dumb and hustling everyone was maxed out. With him around, no matter how big a company like Sterling Holdings was, no matter how dangerous the corporate storms became, he would weather them all with an air of calm indifference. And the girl he was protecting would never be touched by a single wave. Lily subconsciously glanced over at Claire on the other side of the sofa with a mix of awe and envy. But when her eyes fell back on Clark, her expression softened. No need to be envious. Now, she too had someone she could rely on. Leo, in turn, asked Lily about her family's collaboration with Nexus and their Weibo platform. He had only made the initial introduction. The actual progress of the partnership depended on their subsequent efforts. Lily smiled and said everything was going smoothly, and that her family would be deepening their partnership with Nexus in the future. But speaking of Nexus naturally led to the topic of the ongoing social media war with Apex Group. As a partner, Lily had heard plenty of rumors about the fierce business battle. Now that she had the chance, she took the opportunity to ask Leo for his insight. Leo just smiled, not offering a detailed explanation, but simply said, "Don't worry, Nexus won't lose." Hearing just that one sentence, Lily's expression relaxed. That's good. This surprised Leo a little. You have that much confidence in Nexus? This time, it was Lily's turn to smile. She shook her head. No, I have that much confidence in you. She had seen this man's miraculous abilities time and again. She had seen how, at that star-studded Nexus gala, even someone as esteemed as William Tion, the head of Weibo, had treated him with respect. She knew the power and skill hidden beneath his calm exterior. Unconsciously, in her mind, this guy had become a towering figure. By the way, Leo seemed to remember something. I recently met someone who's your complete opposite. Lily was curious. My opposite? Leo nodded. Yeah, she's incredibly fast at grabbing the hot dishes in the cafeteria. I should introduce you to sometime. Lily, the towering image of Leo in her mind instantly crumbled. The campus beauty, mortified, grabbed a cookie from the bag and shoved it into his mouth. Eat your cookie. That night, the crew drank quite a bit. It was their last get-together before winter break. Tomorrow, they would all say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. The mood was bittersweet. They talked about their holiday plans. Leon was taking Molly to visit his hometown in Illinois. Quinn and Marco were going to Portland for a double date with Kevin and Tessa. Jade was going home. The studious young woman had recently taken up photography and planned to take 100 photos over the break to show everyone when she got back. Dylan was also heading home. He swore that this time, he would conquer his shyness and come back a new man. No one would have believed him if he hadn't written the promise down on his whiteboard. The night grew late. The wine was finished, and everyone was in high spirits. It was time for one last toast to end their final gathering before the break. The crew raised their glasses. All right, here's to happy winter break. The toast felt incomplete. Marco thought for a moment. How about we just do a screw Northwood High? A wave of understanding passed through the group, followed by a chorus of enthusiastic agreement. To hell with Northwood High. The glasses clinked together, their laughter echoing through the cold winter night. A new week began. While university students were just starting their winter break, for the working stiffs, it was another day at the office. Leo and Claire drove the Maybach to the Global Financial Center, parking in a secluded corner of the underground garage. They would have to go up separately. Before getting out, the young couple shared another intimate moment in the car. A long while later, Leo opened the passenger door, wiping a lipstick smudge from his face without batting an eye. Well, Supervisor Sterling, I'm heading up to work now. From the driver's seat, Claire touched up her lipstick in the vanity mirror, her expression just as calm. Go on. After a few days away, his return to the Sterling division was met with a flurry of stares and a commotion in the open plan office. Holy shit, the water boy is back. Suddenly, my bladder feels inexplicably full. At noon, Leo once again had lunch with his mentor, Evelyn Vance. The housing situation was all sorted out. He'd be renting the small apartment on the same floor as the general. During lunch, listening to Evelyn and a few other colleagues chat, he overheard a shocking piece of news. Have you guys heard? Chairman Sterling himself is coming to inspect the division this week. When the news spread through the 57th floor of the Sterling division, it caused an uproar. Meanwhile, on the 61st floor of the Global Financial Center, in the Happiness CEO's office with its panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, David Chung was on the phone, laughing heartily. Of course, Mr. Sterling, if you're coming to the building for an inspection, You have to stop by Happy Nest for a visit. My door is always open. Chairman Sterling was coming to personally inspect the division. This was earth-shattering news. At lunch in the public cafeteria on the 6th floor of the Global Financial Center, the employees of the Sterling division were all huddled together, whispering excitedly. Amidst the commotion, they could hardly contain their joy and excitement. Even back at headquarters, a top boss like Chairman Sterling was a rare sight. He mostly stayed in his office on the 37th floor, meeting with important clients or discussing strategy with the senior VPs. The occasional all-hands meeting would be held in a large conference room on the 36th floor, where he would offer some broad strategic guidance. For the ordinary employees on the lower floors, even seeing a group VP was a rare treat. But this time, Chairman Sterling was coming to inspect their division. He was singling them out for a personal visit. This was a tremendous honor. It showed how much the chairman valued their division. Let those bastards in HR, those pigs in marketing, those idiots in legal, and those useless drones in logistics eat their hearts out. Of course, the division's employees were well aware that this opportunity was most likely because of their new junior boss, Ms. Sterling. The chairman was coming for his precious daughter. But who cared about the reason? As long as he came, it was a chance for them, the ordinary employees, to get some face time with the big boss. If he happened to remember one of them, their future would be limitless. At the lunch table, the few young employees eating with Leo and Evelyn were practically vibrating with anticipation, their faces full of awe. I've only ever seen Chairman Sterling from a distance during the annual employee meeting at headquarters. This time, we might get to see him up close. Mr. Sterling is my idol. I joined Sterling Holdings because of him. 20 years of conquering the business world. Starting from scratch. Single-handedly building an empire like Sterling Holdings, a leader in the nation. The same Chairman Sterling who was seemingly disdained by his own daughter was, in the eyes of countless young professionals, a figure to be revered. The employees at the table were as giddy as die-hard fans about to meet their favorite celebrity. But their excitement wasn't enough. They turned to look at Leo, who was completely absorbed in his food, and frowned. Leo, right? What's with your reaction? Chairman Sterling is coming. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see a man like that, and you're acting like it's no big deal. Leo continued to shovel food into his mouth, mumbling, "Oh, I'm fine." Evelyn chuckled and came to his defense. "Come on, why are you asking him? He's just an intern, a kid still in school. He probably doesn't even grasp the status and importance of Mr. Sterling." The other colleagues relaxed. "That's true. Well, you're in for a treat, kid. You just got here, and you're already getting a chance to see the chairman up close." Leo didn't argue. He decided internally. For others, seeing Chairman Sterling was a rare event. He'd seen him more than once or twice. He'd done more than just see him. He'd loaned the man money for cigarettes, shared meals with him, called him brother, eloped with his daughter, and even brainstormed with him on how to murder the punk who'd run off with his daughter. Let's not talk about it. It's a story full of tears. Besides, knowing his magnanimous father-in-law, this visit felt like it was aimed squarely at him. Leo made a decision. He would have to stay far, far away, and avoid his cheap father-in-law at all costs. Chairman Sterling hadn't arrived yet, but Clark Sterling had. Just as they discussed at the L&S house a few days ago, Clark reported for duty at the Sterling division that week. Although he was from a branch family, he was still a bona fide Sterling. Unlike other new hires, he bypassed the internship phase and came on as a full-time employee. That Monday afternoon, the division's departments held their regular meetings. In Conference Room 5, a pudgy supervisor in charge of new hires and interns introduced the new colleague with effusive enthusiasm. "Clark Sterling, everyone, a top student from East Bay Polytechnic. He'll be officially joining our big Sterling family. Let's give him a warm welcome." He was the first to start clapping enthusiastically. The other new hires and interns at the table followed suit. As an intern, Leo didn't even have a seat at the table. He was on a small stool behind his mentor, Evelyn, and the other full-time staff. He could hear them whispering amidst the applause. "Clark Sterling? His name is so similar to Ms. Sterling's. A C name. Is he also part of the family? Look at old Stan's attitude. He has to be." As a newcomer, Clark was exceedingly polite and humble, clasping his hands and bowing repeatedly. "You're all too kind. I'm just a new guy. There's a lot I don't know. I'll be counting on your guidance." He finished with a formal bow, which earned him some approving nods from the staff. He might be a Sterling, but he seemed humble and not at all arrogant. He should be easy to get along with. The young employees in front of Leo started whispering again. No matter how easygoing he is, he's still a Sterling. A VVIP connection. His background is way stronger than ours. We definitely can't pull rank on him. We should try to get on his good side. Evelyn also nodded in agreement, leaning back to whisper instructions to Leo. You hear that? You can't mess with people like him in the company. You need to be careful. Leo nodded repeatedly, diligently absorbing her advice. At the front of the room, the pudgy supervisor, Stan, was grinning like a Cheshire cat. Oh, Clark, my boy, don't be so modest. A top talent like you is exactly what our division needs. We'll be looking to you for guidance. If you need anything, just let me know, or just tell one of the interns to do it for you. Suddenly, as if remembering something, Stan slapped his forehead. Oh, right, your workstation isn't set up yet, is it? Intern. Where's the intern? Without giving Clark a chance to refuse, the supervisor scanned the room. His eyes quickly landed on Leo in the corner. He pointed a fat finger. You, what are you waiting for? Go to logistics and get our new employee his office supplies. Then go to the break room and get him some snacks and fruit. Honestly, how can an intern have so little initiative? An intern had to know his place. Having been called upon by the supervisor, Leo Hammer Wallace simply said, "Oh," and obediently stood up. Fetching supplies and water was, of course, an intern's job. One trip or two, it made no difference. Since he was heading to the break room anyway, in the spirit of efficiency, Leo kindly asked if anyone else in the room was thirsty or needed anything. After asking, he expertly whipped out his little notebook and, under Clark Sterling's horrified gaze, enthusiastically invited everyone to write down their names and requests. The pudgy supervisor was quite pleased. The kid knows how to make himself useful. Thinking to get things for others, that's what I call having your head in the game. And he even knows to use a notebook because his brain's too slow to remember everything. Here, I'm thirsty too. I'll write one down. Clark, my boy, you just sit tight. I'll write your name for you. Clark, who had just snapped out of his daze, was aghast. Wait, my name doesn't need to be on there. Others might not know, but how could he not recognize it? That wasn't just a little notebook. That was the death note. After a desperate struggle, he managed to keep his name off the list. Clark then made the excuse that he was new and wanted to familiarize himself with the office, saying he would go with the intern to the break room. His words earned him more approving nods from the other employees. This Sterling kid who just dropped in, he seemed pretty down-to-earth and approachable. Supervisor Stan Gable gave him a thumbs up, lavishing him with praise. Incredible. All of you take notes. Look at this kind of dedication. Of course, while praising Clark, he didn't hesitate to snatch Leo's little notebook and, with a flourish, scrawl his request and his name, Stan Gable, in big letters across a blank page, taking up the whole sheet. Kid, I want a coffee and 2 plates of fruit. Remember, peel the apples. Get it to my office ASAP. Leaving the conference room, Leo and Clark walked side by side toward the break room in Wing B. With no one else around, Clark lowered his voice and cautiously asked, "This is what you do at the company now?" Leo nodded cheerfully. "Yep, interns do the grunt work, you know." Intern Leo Hammer said it with an air of acceptance. Clark, however, couldn't help but glance nervously at the little notebook in Leo's hand. He saw the page filled with a dense list of employee names, and the huge, sprawling signature of the pudgy supervisor, Stan Gable, that took up an entire page. He began to pray for the man's soul. They didn't chat for long. After getting a cup of water from the break room, Clark said his goodbyes to Leo. He had already made arrangements with Claire a couple of days ago at the LNS house. Today, after officially joining the division, he was to report to Claire's office and formally join the Sterling Heiress's marketing team. News traveled fast in the Sterling division. By the time Leo got back to his desk, he could hear colleagues nearby already gossiping about it. They knew that the new Sterling kid would be reporting directly to the junior boss's team. It was only natural for family to stick together. But as they talked, a tangible sense of envy filled the air. When Evelyn came over to give Leo his assignments and training materials, she also heard the chatter. She, however, was unbothered. You can't be envious of things like that. Just focus on doing your own job well. A colleague she was friendly with teased her, "If that opportunity fell into your lap, Evelyn, wouldn't you be ecstatic? Didn't you say Ms. Sterling was your idol too?" Evelyn chuckled. "I can wish, but wishing doesn't make it so. It's better to be practical." She glanced at Leo beside her, a slight pout on her lips. "Besides, I still have this little punk to train. What would it say about me if I bailed on him after only 2 days? Ambitious, yes, but also practical and hardworking. And above all, responsible. These are the principles the general lived by." In the Division 3 marketing team supervisor's office, Claire was delighted to see her cousin. She told him to make himself comfortable, and they chatted for a bit. When she asked about his first impressions, he mentioned seeing Leo in the conference room. She couldn't help but laugh. "It's fine, Clark. You don't need to worry about him. That little fool won't let anyone bully him, no matter where he is. Her tone was light, full of trust in her boyfriend. Clark didn't dare respond, just nodded with a forced smile. That wasn't what he was worried about at all. He was more worried about everyone else getting bullied by the Sterling family's son-in-law. After a bit more small talk, Claire got down to business, assigning Clark his upcoming tasks. Clark sat up straighter, his expression serious as he nodded and took notes. He knew why his cousin, the future heir of Sterling Holdings, had joined this division. This was the core of the company. Starting with building a marketing team, the Sterling heiress was going to learn and master every aspect of the division's operations. And he, as a team member, would be her most important aid. After assigning the work, Claire relaxed and told Clark to go get his things and move over to the Division 3 area. As he was leaving, Claire remembered something and called out, "Don't close the door. I'm expecting someone else." When she walked into the office, Evelyn Vance felt like she was dreaming. She had just been told to come to Division 3 and had no idea why. Until this moment. Walking into the marketing team supervisor's office and seeing the cool, ethereal, and stunningly beautiful figure sitting behind the desk, a beauty that made even her feel a pang of inadequacy, she began to have a suspicion. Her heart started pounding with excitement and nervousness. Even her voice was tight when she spoke. "Hello, Ms. Sterling. I'm Evelyn Vance." Behind the desk, Claire stood up, looked at the nervous but beautiful young woman, and extended her hand with a smile. "Hello. It's nice to meet you. I'm Claire Sterling." This was their first meeting in this life, but in her past life, they had met more than once. The young woman before her, a new employee who had just passed her probationary period, would, in a decade's time, become the formidable Director Vance, one of the leaders of the Sterling Holdings division. After the handshake and introductions, they both sat down. Sitting in the guest chair, Evelyn couldn't help but steal glances at Claire. For her, this wasn't actually the first time she'd seen her. Last year, as an intern, she had sat in on a division project meeting. The Sterling heiress had also been in attendance, observing the various department meetings. One sat at the head of the long conference table. The other sat in a corner by the wall, at the very back of the room. From that distance, she could only catch a fleeting glimpse, but she had been captivated by her cool, stunning beauty and the aura of natural authority she exuded. Seeing her up close now was even more breathtaking. She was so beautiful that even Evelyn, a former campus queen of East Bay Foreign Language University, had to admit defeat. An inappropriate thought popped into her head. That little punk Leo was bragging about how beautiful his girlfriend is. He should be brought here to see Ms. Sterling. Then he'd know what a real goddess looks like. Of course, beyond her looks, Evelyn had heard all about Ms. Sterling's accomplishments within the group since she started. Last April, the sole heir to Sterling Holdings had unexpectedly taken over the Southwest business operations. With astonishing speed and ruthless efficiency, she had audited the region's finances. Decisive and unwavering, she had taken down countless corrupt executives in one fell swoop. During the subsequent world-shaking Great Southwest Quake, she had led the Southwest branch to turn a disaster into a triumph, allowing the group to make significant contributions to the relief efforts and shine in the national spotlight. In the Southwest, she forged an entirely new reputation for Sterling Holdings. She had first broken, then rebuilt. She had created a true gold standard. Such achievements had long become legendary within Sterling Holdings. From that day on, everyone in the company was won over by the junior boss's capabilities, unanimously agreeing that she was the undisputed successor. Evelyn was no different. In fact, while many of her peers idolized Chairman Sterling, after hearing about the junior boss's deeds, she had made the Sterling heiress her role model and the target she strived to emulate. And now, she never would have imagined that she would be sitting in the same office with her. Taking a deep breath to steady her nerves, Evelyn carefully chose her words. "Ms. Sterling, you wanted to see me because..." Before she could finish, a light voice came from across the desk. "Oh, I'm building a new team. Are you interested in working for me?" The words hit her like a clap of thunder, leaving her dizzy and disoriented. Sitting at her desk, Claire watched the clearly stunned Evelyn with an amused smile, her arms crossed. This wasn't the first time she had seen this young woman either. In her past life, the future Director Vance of the Sterling Division had been another of her most capable and trusted generals. In the Sterling Holdings of that era, among a sea of talented individuals, 3 women stood out for their exceptional ability and beauty. One was, of course, the CEO, Claire Sterling. Another was the Group VP and General Manager of the East Bay headquarters, Anna. The third was the head of one of the group's most critical departments, Director Evelyn Vance. In that life, The three most outstanding women in the group had little personal interaction, but they were steadfast and perfectly synchronized partners in business. Though she had no idea why, in this life, her best friend and sister-in-law had heartlessly abandoned her to go work for some small, pathetic company. When she found out whose company it was, she would have to beat the owner up. But putting that aside, meeting her other capable ally from her past life was still a joyous occasion. Claire looked at Evelyn, remembering their time working side by side. In her past life, her own style was cool and decisive, rarely showing mercy. Her sister-in-law, Anna, was a social butterfly, skillfully navigating between partners and handling the group's affairs flawlessly, her friendly exterior hiding a cool detachment that commanded respect. Only Evelyn was different. The Director Vance of her past life was universally acknowledged within the group as serious, down-to-earth, and reliable. Any task given to her, no matter how difficult, would be executed with the utmost precision and diligence. She was dutiful to her superiors and caring to her subordinates. Under her leadership, the Sterling Division was a united and cohesive force. All of her employees respected and admired her, even giving her the nickname the General. In over a decade at Sterling, there was hardly a single rumor or negative comment about her. There was only one amusing anecdote. It was said that the normally calm and reliable General Vance was particularly ruthless and efficient when it came to the cafeteria lunch line. She could always be the first one to get the hot dishes in the crowded public cafeteria. Oh, speaking of grabbing hot dishes, Claire subconsciously touched her chin. She seemed to recall a certain negative example. While the junior boss's thoughts were wandering, Evelyn finally recovered from the sudden shock. She composed herself, suppressing her excitement and joy, and spoke with calm deliberation. "I'm honored that you think so highly of me. I am very willing, and I very much hope to have this opportunity. However, I'm not sure what my responsibilities would be if I joined the team, or if my abilities would meet your requirements. Also, I still have some unfinished tasks in my current position that would require some time to handle and hand off." As she said this, Evelyn couldn't help but think of the little punk intern she was currently mentoring. He was a constant source of worry. If she wasn't around, she didn't know what kind of trouble he would get into. Claire wasn't put off by the lack of an immediate, unconditional yes. Instead, she nodded, a newfound appreciation growing within her. This was the General Vance she knew from her past life. Even when faced with such a huge opportunity, she remained composed, first considering whether she was truly qualified for the role, and then thinking about the proper handover of her current duties. That was responsibility. It was her most precious and remarkable virtue. A smile spread across Claire's face. "Don't worry. I'll explain your specific duties to you in detail later. There's no rush to join the team. I'll give you about a week to wrap up your current work. As for whether you can meet my requirements, that's not something you need to worry about. I chose you because I already know enough about you. I know what you're capable of." Leaving the office and walking back to the open plan work area, Evelyn replayed the conversation with the junior boss in her mind. The whole thing still felt unreal, like a dream. Just like that, she had hit the jackpot and latched onto the biggest thigh in the company. And Ms. Sterling's final words left her both flattered and slightly bewildered. This was their first formal meeting, but the way Ms. Sterling spoke, it was as if she knew Evelyn better than Evelyn knew herself. She couldn't figure it out on her way back, but by the time she reached the open plan office, Evelyn had already composed herself. She chatted and laughed with her colleagues as if nothing had happened, her expression perfectly normal. The junior boss had told her to keep it quiet, but even without the instruction, her own cautious nature told her it was best not to announce her new role just yet. So many people were coveting a spot on that team. It was better to keep things under wraps until everything was finalized. Besides, she had been given a week to transition out of her current duties. For the next 7 days, she would carry on as usual. She would focus on wrapping up her responsibilities properly before she left. As she thought this, her gaze fell upon the little punk intern she had just started training, and her feelings became complicated. He was the first intern she had personally mentored since becoming a full-time employee. It felt different. He was a bit of a pain, sure, but ultimately a decent, likable kid. Normally, this kind of one-on-one mentorship would last for at least a month, if not longer. But now, it seemed her time was cut short. Once she joined the junior boss's team, she likely wouldn't have the time or energy to look after him. With a small, regretful sigh, Evelyn looked at Leo, her voice softening. "From now on, you need to study hard and work diligently. My time to help you is running out." Intern Leo Hammer looked at the general with curiosity. "Are you getting fired, Evelyn?" "Evelyn?" Question mark. Leo's tone was full of concern. "Too many late arrivals? That time last week wasn't your first, was it?" You really need to be more careful on the metro. I told you if you miss your stop once, you'll definitely do it again. A vein throbbed in Evelyn's temple. It's the last week I have to get along with this little brat. Be patient. Don't hit him. Don't hit him. She repeated the mantra 3 times in her head, took a deep breath, and forced a calm smile. It's not because of that. Leo paused. Oh, so you're quitting? Why? Was it because your dirty stocking on the bookshelf was discovered? Too embarrassing. I haven't told anyone, I swear. I don't know who else might have, but it's not that big a deal. You just need to have thicker skin, Evelyn. The general could bear it no longer. She exploded in a fit of mortified rage. I'm not getting fired, and I'm not quitting. I have no intention of leaving this company. And if you mention that incident one more time, I swear to God I will kill you. The ensuing commotion of banging and clattering drew the attention of several employees from nearby desks. They peeked over their cubicle walls, saw what was happening, and quickly ducked back down. That Minterman tea pair seems to be getting along great. After the dust settled, Evelyn found that her earlier feelings of reluctance had mostly dissipated. Damn it, having an apprentice like this was nothing to feel sentimental about. Getting away from him early would probably add a few years to her life. Her complicated emotions vanished. The general shot her in turn a sidelong glance and snorted. Stop your nonsense, you little brat. I still have time this week, and I'll be watching you. Study hard and do your work. Then, with the puffed-up air of a drill sergeant, she marched away. She'd heard the kid was moving into the corporate housing at Rainbow Terrace tonight, possibly with his girlfriend. It was a shame she had to work late to get her handover documents in order. Otherwise, she had planned on taking the young couple out to dinner. She could have seen for herself what kind of crazy girl was blind enough to fall for such an infuriating brat. While the mentor had to work overtime, the intern was getting ready to leave on time. He and his wife had arranged it earlier that day. They were heading to the corporate housing tonight. No need to move furniture. The apartment was fully furnished. All they needed to bring were their bags. The only thing missing was a king-size bed. He'd have to ask Mr. Chin's brother where he got that friendship vibrating bed and order another one. At 5 o'clock sharp, Leo packed his things, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and stood up from his desk. He got a text from his wife. Clocking out. Time to go home. Let's go see the new place. Leo smiled and typed back an okay. To avoid suspicion at the office, they had planned to take separate elevators down to the underground parking garage and meet there. But when Leo got to the elevator bank, he looked up and saw Claire standing inside one of the cars. They had run into each other by chance. Claire was alone in the elevator. A few other Sterling employees had been about to get on the same car, but they were so intimidated by the junior boss's frosty aura that they didn't dare step inside, choosing to wait for the next one instead. Leo looked at his wife inside the elevator. Claire looked up and saw him, too. She raised an eyebrow, her expression cool and authoritative. In turn, get in. I have something to discuss with you. Amidst a sea of sympathetic and pitying glances from the onlookers, in turn Leo Hammer stepped timidly into the elevator. Yes, ma'am. The elevator doors slid shut. The second they closed, the icy authority on the Sterling heiress's face melted away, replaced by a radiant smile. She unabashedly took her boyfriend's hand. Leo instinctively glanced up at the security camera in the corner. Be careful. There's a camera. You got to be cautious out in the world. Claire followed his gaze and nodded knowingly. It's fine. The next second, her expression switched back to cool indifference. She looked up at the camera in the corner of the ceiling and made a subtle gesture. The message was clear. Turn around. Who knows what kind of terrifying threat that single look conveyed to the security guard in the monitoring room. But 3 seconds later, the camera slowly, tremulously swiveled away. It cowered in the corner, head down, pretending to be dead. Claire turned back to her boyfriend, one eyebrow arched. There! Leo. The destructive power of Bertha Sue transcended species. With the camera no longer a threat, the young couple held hands freely in the elevator, sharing a few tender moments. The elevator descended smoothly. It should have gone straight to the second level of the underground garage, but it slowed to a stop on the ground floor. The doors opened. 2 figures were rushing toward them from a short distance away. Hey, hold the elevator. Leo looked up and froze. They were 2 employees from his own company, Happy Nest. The 2 employees also saw the familiar figure in the elevator, and, their faces lighting up with surprise, were about to blurt out, Mr.